If everybody can please join us, and start off with pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody back to City Hall for our first council meeting. I know we had a workshop last week. That worked out good, but just want to go ahead and welcome all of those. And I see some folks that actually always join us for council meetings. Thank you for joining us and being here. We appreciate the opportunity to be back over here. Okay, first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to open it up for visitors and citizens' comments. But we got our commissioner here. Commissioner,
Yes.
do you mind passing? I know you wanted to share some
Yes, I
information with
do.
the council.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I wanted to pass along something that occurred at Commissioner's Court this morning, which in effect does affect the city of Lytle. Some of you may be aware that during the last legislature, a hotel motel tax was approved for Atascosa County. The purpose of that tax is to build a PRCCA rodeo arena and a convention center. The discussion this morning had to do with the location of it. It was done during public comments because it's not formally proceeded yet, but I wanted to let you know that the Strawberry Festival Association and Rotary Club of Poteet has expressed a great interest. There are two areas under consideration. One is at the Show Barn in Pleasanton, and the other is the Strawberry Festival grounds in Poteet. So that would affect us over here. I wanted to pass that along. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
That's gonna be in addition to the 7% that we have going right now.
It's a 2%, yeah, hotel
It'll be an
motel,
additional
but it's
2%
designated only for that.
for that.
Yes, sir.
When it's paid for, it'll go back, they'll drop it?
Yes, it'll go away.
Yeah, okay. Just curious, because a lot of times with taxes.
Generally, what's gonna happen,
Keep-
if you've ever been involved in one of these, you're not gonna wait until the money's collected. There will be bonds for you for something to pay for it, and the hotel motel tax will pay for it.
What's
But
the
it's still in the planning stage.
What's the estimated cost?
There's no idea at this point. I have no clue.
And their meetings are on YouTube out here, but, and we watched this morning. It's very informative to watch the county commissioner meetings. You have, very, very interesting.
Commissioner, we appreciate your advice too with that, and that's actually how we're doing it
I
now.
heard that.
So we really appreciate your advice.
Okay.
Came up and a great team with Matt and Richie actually came up with a solution for us. So this is working out. So we really appreciate it.
To all of you, if you ever have any questions, you've got my number, email, and everything.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right.
Really appreciate that. Okay, next thing that we have is before we go into the consent of the agenda, I just want to go ahead and do something and also want to make sure I take advantage of the commissioner being here. But, the opportunity for us to be able to recognize folks that make a difference, that always take their time to make sure that this community is highlighted. And at the same time, they take the time to make a difference in our community by making things happen and being involved and being very strategic about how they look at things and how they develop things and how they make an impact. And it's across the board. Well, here recently, this individual had a chance to actually compete at different levels and actually run for election and up at the state level. And this individual has done great things for our veterans in the local area. And now the state has recognized that. So here recently, they actually selected Larry Sanders as the junior vice commander. You're talking about the top 3 senior leadership positions for the VFW across the state of Texas. And this individual is located here in Lytle. And I couldn't miss the opportunity, not only to highlight him, but present something on behalf of all of us, to be able to say thanks to you and what you have done and what you continue to do. I tell you, he told a little story here recently about him being at a conference And we're sitting around the table, and there was another gentleman that has another post, and this gentleman basically was saying, well, I don't know about these people out at Lidl, you know, they keep winning this stuff, they keep doing these things, da 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 da. They went around the table, and I think Larry got a chance to introduce himself, and he said, I'm from Lidl, Texas, and all of a sudden, they find out really quick. But just to know that the way that other communities actually see this and feel this, and then they strive to be just like our post is, and be part of the leadership that goes along with that, kind of stands out within itself. So wanted to present this. So Larry, if you can please come up here. I appreciate it. And
I'm here for that.
I know, this is a surprise. That's what it, and Commissioner, if you don't mind standing next, you'll be in the middle. There. I'll go ahead, we're gonna take a photo here and be able to do this.
There you go.
But we actually have a certificate of recognition. And Josie, thank you so much for the help. Put this certificate of recognition for Larry Sanders, and it's a recognition for your selection as a state of Texas VFW Junior Vice Commander. We value your dedicated service to our local communities, their veterans, and the city of Lytle. And it's awarded today, the 12th day of July, 2021.
What an honor. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
You know, a little bit about VFW, it's not just me. We, VFW, right now, we have 350 members in this Lytle post. We hold a national record. We're going to Kansas City in 2 weeks for the 8th consecutive All-American award. We hold it, and there's 7,000 posts in the nation's territories. We hold the national record. We have 9 All-State. We hold the national record there. So we're very proud of it. It's not just me doing this, but a couple of them here. We got members right here, a member right here. You're a member. But, you know, it's a thing. Thank all the veterans also. Mark out here is a member of our post, but Chris and Polly, they're our commander now. But just an honor. I want to thank you for this. Didn't expect this today.
Feels
I
great.
salute you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we just go ahead and look that way. They're gonna take some photos.
Smile.
All right.
Yeah,
All
please.
right. Surprises are always good. Always good. Especially if folks are making a difference across the board. All right. Any others? Visitors, citizens, comments before we move on to consent the agenda? Anybody? All right. Just go ahead and move to item number 4, consent agenda, to consider the approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes.
I sent some more minutes out today from the workshop the other night. Sent them out earlier today, and they're also in your attachments there.
And Council, if you probably noticed, our minutes are a lot more streamlined, concise. They're actually a little bit better. Appreciate that, Josie. A little bit easier, straightforward to the point on that. So appreciate that. I do have an input on the June the 28th on page number 3 on the update of the Railroad Commission Safety Evaluation towards the bottom. It's not on the title, but on the content where it says letters to and from the Railroad Commission on the 2020 Safety Evaluation, and gave a brief summary. Can you go ahead and add on there from the Railroad Commission on the 2020 Safety Evaluation violations?
Alleged violations.
So,
That's the way they are, alleged violations.
so we need to include that on there, okay? want to go over one time with the minutes?
Mayor, I move that we accept the minutes with your edit.
We have a motion? Second. Yes, that's second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, consider an approval of this city attorney's monthly bill. Item 4B.
I move to pay the bill for our attorney.
Any motion? Sam, got a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any opposed? Okay, thank you for taking care of that. Appreciate it. Okay, and now for C, consider approval of the payment of the bills. So Josie and Edward, if you guys, just a comment on the bills, and I'm looking at the ones that are pages 1 through number 8 on there. Just take a look, there's some bills in there that are listed as May bills on there. The Century Pest Control, like on the second page, Century Pest Control, Tom's bills, AT&T. Just take a look, because I went back to last month's when we have the sheets in front of us to approve, and we had approved those last month.
Okay, but remember you asked for those who were paid? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I-
these
okay.
were, those
You know
were
what?
placed in front of us.
I'm seeing the date that he put on here, 15, and that's when you actually paid those bills at, they probably should have been 16 on there instead of 15.
It's just that they were, so
You
just go
can
back.
once you paid after, yeah.
just go back to the minutes from last time, or the bills that we had from last time, and you'll notice that some were already approved and they're listed on here.
Yeah, it's the date,
Amounts are exactly the same, but we had already approved those,
it's the date.
so just take a look at that.
We met on the 14th and those bills were paid on the 15th.
Commissioner, how did we do across Atascosa with our rainwater that we had going through? Did you guys experience?
I don't know about the rest of the precincts, but we fared okay, but in the area just to the west of Petit, we have quite a few road washouts.
So it was mostly roads, not any structural damage or anything, just roads.
Just creeks and the river, of course.
Good. That's good to hear. There was a lot of water coming
We
in.
kept busy.
It was unreal. You know, it'd be nice, and then all of a sudden, here comes the downpour. See a lot of water. No, a lot of happy farmers and ranchers, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Make a motion that we accept the bids.
Okay, Sam, we got a motion? Okay, David, thank you. Any further discussion on the bills? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries forward. Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on into our action items, item 5A. And first thing that we have is, we have Mario. Come on up, Mario, from the food bank. He's gonna go ahead and talk to us a little bit about food bank and give some perspective of everything they do, because they make a huge impact. And it's not only in San Antonio, but the surrounding communities. So we appreciate you coming over and highlighting this for the council.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Mayor. Proud and privileged to be here to say a few words on behalf of our organization. So, my name is Mario Blitter, I'm your Chief of Government and Public Affairs at your San Antonio Food Bank. And on behalf of Eric Cooper, our President and CEO, our board, our organization, just thank you for the leadership that you all provide to your community. A little bit of trivia on food banking and what it is. Across the country, there's a little bit over 200 food banks. And so we are one of around 200, excuse me. In the great state of Texas, we're one of 21. So all 254 counties are covered by a food bank service territory, and we cover 68 counties in southwest Texas. So we go as far down as Crystal City, we're up in Rock Springs and Edwards, we're in Comal, New Braunfels, and we're down in Carnes, everything in between pretty much. We are taking on an additional 13 counties to help out the San Angelo or Contra Valley Food Bank. We've already been sending food and resources up that way, so you know that. Pre-COVID, we were assisting nearly 58,000 individuals in any given week in terms of emergency food assistance. And after the pandemic hit, that number went up to about 120,000 individuals that we were serving. Still are. Numbers come down a little bit, but it's in that range. And so the way we help our clients is we partner up with nonprofit organizations. If you think of a bank and think of the food bank working in a similar fashion, you deposit money into a bank and then it's dispensed out at the food bank. Food, money, resources deposited in and then dispensed out. About the 530 nonprofits that we were partnering up with before COVID. And those nonprofits can be anything from a Boys and Girls Club, a soup kitchen, a shelter, a senior center. The majority of them are faith-based, located at a church known as a food pantry. And so once the pandemic hit, the 530 census went down. Those nonprofits, some of them didn't have enough bandwidth or staffing or resources, so it drastically went down. And so we were having to work and pivot and nourish the community and our service territory in a different way. It new work for us. It's been, I can tell you firsthand, it's been a lot of pressure on the country safety net. Millions of folks have been struggling across the country to put food on the table. And in our great state of Texas and in our service territory, the same goes. The country safety net, I can tell you, has been stretched thin, but we're still intact and we're still moving forward. But we're having to adjust and do business in a different way. And so we are preparing for whatever the next disaster might be. We don't know. as you mentioned, Mayor, the recent rain event. And so do know that we're working hard to adjust and streamline our operations so we can take care of folks. With the nonprofits that we work with, the way we're able to get them food is we partner up with large grocery retailers, food manufacturers, processors, wholesalers, resellers, farmers and ranchers to get food into our system and into our inventory. And so without those large grocery retailers like H-E-B, we couldn't do what we do. So pre-COVID, we were receiving about a semi-truckload an hour. Now it's up to 2, even higher than that in some cases. Or our trucks are going out, picking up from those places and getting that inventory in, and then we're pushing that out. So a lot of work and activity has been taking place. I do encourage you all to reach out. You have my contact information if you'd like a tour of our facility. We're located off of 151, just above Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. We're located on a couple of parcels of land. If you put that land together, it's about 40 acres. We're about 210,000 square feet of freezer, cooler, office space, warehouse space. And we just opened the doors on our new culinary training center. So 60,000 square foot, 2-story state-of-the-art stucco building that contains a community training kitchen and also a venison processing center as well. We partner with the state on Hunters for the Hungry, so folks can donate their deer carcasses to us so we can process that and get that lean protein out to the families that we serve. We have an array of programs and services at the food bank. I encourage you to log on to safoodbank.org and you can see that. It'll be at your fingertips, but you can also come out on that tour and we can walk and talk through the facility and I can show you some of our programs around seniors, around kids, around workforce development, helping folks find a job, around our pet food program, around our farm and our ag program. We are farming about 30 acres at our location there in San Antonio, and then about 50 acres on the Mission Reach at Mission San Juan in San Antonio as well. We also have a couple of other footprints. We have our New Braunfels Food Bank up in Comal County. That's about 28,000 square foot or feet facility. It's a miniature version of us. We're taking care of that fast-growing region that Kendall, Comal, and Guadalupe. Right now, currently, New Braunfels in that area region is about the 3rd fastest growing area in the country. So there's a lot of demand up there. We are also located at Haven for Hope, that comprehensive homeless campus in San Antonio. So we're handling those meals for that population, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then we also have a footprint down in Pearsall. We have what we've entitled the Frio County Food Bank, where we're trying to get some programming going for the region down south. But with the mentioning of the rain and those type of events, the pandemic, whenever there's a natural disaster, we're part of the national EOC, state and local. So a natural disaster, hurricane, fire, flood, tornado, man-made disaster, government shutdowns, and now pandemics. Food banks are mobilized and we're the boots on the ground. We take food and water to the communities that maybe were impacted in a negative way by the event. And we work with the Red Cross and municipalities. You all stand up for shelters and we come in and mobilize and give that food and nutrition to those families. Another great aspect at the food bank is our client services department. So do know that folks can log on to the food bank or call 210-431-8326 and get connected with our client services department. We have staff that are there fielding calls, making calls throughout our 16 counties, but also in-person visits for folks in need. So anything from WIC, TANF, Medicaid, long-term care for seniors, for kids, and SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. Our staff are there getting folks screened and applied for those programs. They're doing needs assessments and then helping them get emergency food and then long-term resources as well. So again, trying to move folks from basically crisis to self-sufficiency, getting them up on their feet. As we all know, the state benefits, the unemployment benefits ended recently, and then the eviction moratorium is ending at the end of the month. So still a lot of work to be done, but we're just appreciative that y'all are in our service territory. And Mayor, I know we've talked in the past about getting some programming up here. I do want to recognize the VFW. Last year, a few distributions where we worked with the city out there at the site in that 100-degree heat, sweltering heat, but we were able to nourish the community. I do want to recognize Atascosa County, Judge Hurley and the commissioners for standing up and helping us during the pandemic as well and hosting some food distributions there to help the folks in Atascosa. So, I know we had a farmer's market in your community recently, and so our staff was very appreciative of that. They're excited to move forward. They do want to look for a location that might be more visible off the main road, and so I know Diane and folks have been talking about that. But Mayor, in closing, just thank you again. You have my cell number. My job has me connected with elected officials, government officials, all levels of government, city, county, state, federal, within our service territory, creating awareness on who we are, how we work, and how we help, getting them engaged in food distributions, getting them out for a tour, getting them into our warehouse to help us sort through all the food that's coming through. So we are there. I'm at your disposal. All of y'all, feel free to reach out when there's a need. We'll try to fill that gap and meet the need. So.
Appreciate it, Brian. Council?
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you very much.
And council, just so you know, we did invite some churches. We got Jacob here from Grace Bible Church came over. Just an opportunity for them to meet because we're looking at opportunities maybe with a partnership in the future. So maybe whether it be quarterly, depending on the need or something like that, that we would have somebody that would be working with them to try to do this. But it's more of a mutual agreement. It's got to be sustainable. Somebody to be kind of like the lead in the local area, kind of work with the food bank. So we're in the initial stages right now, but this is a start.
Yes.
And we really appreciate your time being able to do.
Then there's the question of volunteers too.
Yeah, that's correct.
A lot of the, something to be good for everybody to encourage people to, if they have time, especially young people,
Actually,
pick up stuff and move and get them involved in this.
we had last summer, we had high schoolers that actually came out and actually helped us out, the National Honor Society. They had Boy Scouts also that come out and helped us out too with that. So we're.
Let your Luke over there, would.
So-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a good way for to just create awareness on the need and just mission work and giving back. So for high schoolers and the youth, it's a great way to get engaged. But also without volunteers, we can move forward as an organization. So volunteerism is big. So again, log on to safoodbank.org. And then once we get things going there, we'll definitely fund it in the community so folks can come out and volunteer.
Mark, talked about the growth in the region, right? What is the organization's future expansion plans that, be able to handle that from a logistical standpoint? You spoke about adding 13 more counties, kind of spreading out far and wide, talking about like smaller places around. I've got to look down here in Lytle as far as the distribution warehouse like that all one.
We are looking at doing some refurbishment at our facility. The original footprint was built in 2007, about 104,000 square feet. And in the last 10 years or so, we've doubled in size to 10,000 square feet. We're looking at all aspects. Obviously, we took on the 13 counties. We're working with Feeding America, our national organization, and the Feeding Texas State Association on being able to do that. And so we're assessing, we're looking, and again, as I mentioned, we're preparing for whatever's around the corner. And so do know that we're looking at capacity building and those type of things. So future work coming.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to action item B. We're going to consider an act upon the request of Ryan Doyle and Charles Hope to allow the installation of wireless radio equipment on the water tower located at 15 Street to provide internet service for residents of Lytle. Okay. We'll just go ahead and move on that one. Okay, C, let's go ahead and move on to VFW. PowerPoint presented by the Vital VFW Post 12041 on the 9/11 celebration plans. So we have a screen, for those of you who get a screen in the back, there you go. Have an opportunity.
First and foremost, Mayor, we thank you for allowing us to be here, first of all. You mentioned a minute ago about make things happen. This is what we do, the VFW, the Vital. We've been around for a while now, about 14 years. So we have 350 members. We do a lot in the city. We do a lot in the community. Just going back into COVID, we helped over 200 veterans, Costa County, Bear County, and Medina County. Also, when the storm hit, couldn't get enough toilet paper, couldn't get enough paper towels. But, people call us. We did have access is the main thing, but we do approximately 47 to 50 events a year. Keeps us active, but it's always creative. What we've done, coming here, we did have, 2 years back, we had a festival coming in. Our first year we went in, it was the 10th year of the memorial came in, the 9/11, September 11th. What's happening right now, we're coming to the 20th year, a remarkable year when the 10th year came in. Today, we're asking for a partnership. We come in, first of all, to use the park. Just allow us to use the park, come in here, close the park down one day, but we'll have a memorial that morning. We come in at 8:43, but actually be 7:43 Central Time, where we come in there. And our purpose of that, of course, is to the 20th year significance of the day they honor the loss of lives. And also, we have veterans also through the system. Let the spirits of Americans come back and create something in Vital. That's what we've done. We have what we call the Freedom Walk. If we do a memorial in the morning, what we would have, and we'd ask some of the pastors, ministers in the community. We had about 9 of them that morning come in and spoke for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then we had a honor guard that came in. We present the flag, raise the flag, and salute that, and starts the morning. From that point, then we come from the John Locke Park. We have somewhere, through the years, this particular event, we had over 1,200 participants from the schools, the city. We have a walk from the John Locke Park all the way down to the Veterans Park, the other end of town. Involvement, of course, with the Lila ISD. Then from that point, we will have Congressman Henry Cuellar come to that also, because we'll have you, we want to be it done. Anyone wants to come to speak, we just thank our veterans for being there also, but participating. Been around in life. Thank you, Charles, for being there, and thank you for having a couple of your sons. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, we've done that in the past.
We've done
Yeah,
this.
some years
Lot of
back.
years.
I remember.
Yes,
Yeah, we
Great,
had
great
a
productive.
walk down to the,
we also
yeah,
have to
that's
stop
really
the train.
nice.
Well, people come across, that takes about 30 minutes sometimes, but very remarkable event, stopping the city actually coming there. From that point, what we asked this year, we'd go back into the park and we'll team up with the city, partnership with the city, we'll team up with the chamber. We have Mark, a few players here. Mark, of course, is the president of the Chamber of Commerce here, so member of the VFW. We also have our new post commander right here, Alden Gonzalez, coming in. Thank you for stepping up. And our junior vice chair, Chris Scholarship for the VFW. But from that point, we would have an all-day event. The chamber would take over, put vendors in there. With all-day bands coming in there, about 6 bands playing all day long. We'll have the schools coming in here with all top activities. The meeting will have baseball going on. From that point, then we'd have a car show. And then we have what's called the Revenant Warriors coming in, about 250 members. What they do is the suicide awareness. Some of you have heard 22 to 1. It's the same thing. They participate all over the nation with the best that they have. But these are young warriors coming out of Iraq and Afghanistan in campaigns. But we're glad to have them here. Other than that, we'll also have in the evening the first annual Purple Heart Run. From that point, while we're having that, we talked about some records a minute ago. Lila right now has 3 recipients of Purple Heart. No one in the nation has that. No one has 2. We have 3. We have, of course, our post at the city of Lila right here. And then we have the bank. Lila State Bank is the only bank in the nation. So we're very proud of that honor. So we're going to have a, click in that. There you go.
I thought it was.
Just remembers, Freedom Walk, we always go through, like you said, Jared, just a minute ago. We'll also involve the bands, we'll have festivities, we'll have, other vendors coming in. One time we had over 80 vendors coming in, not only just food bank, food courts, but, other vendors with all kinds of jewelry, all kinds of things coming in. But, other than that, we're talking about maybe a car show. We're gonna Record Warriors be coming in, bringing veterans together. Yeah, they'll be staying at our hotels, the one hotel we have.
Now it's.
And communicating, HEB loves it. We've already spoke to HEB, kind of excited, but, first of all, this is the first Purple Heart, run from the city. But, we will have to have, escort from the police, because we're not just use the park, we might have to go out. Blinded, we won't be able to get too many participants coming in. We've outlined it, but, we'll go over that later.
have a first yard division?
Hold on. A wheelchair, yes, I'll be in a wheelchair. None of that, from that point, we would, come back to the- possibly maybe have fireworks at night, we can get some assistance from the city on that. I'll cap it off, but we will have bands all night, and we'll have, we'll say this, we'll have a lot of drinks and adult beverages, and a lot of water. Like I say walking, we'll have some walkers, wheelchairs in there. And also, we do have a, Mr. Meyer, Gilbert Meyer is a 98 years old this year. Hopefully might be getting out of the hospital by that time. We're trying to get him a Medal of Honor, and we wear ourselves up, or of course, Purple Heart. We will receive a Purple Heart. But, it's one of the things why we want him to be president.
The last surviving.
The last surviving of the, one of the Pearl Harbor, there's only 9 of them left. He's the only survivor of the USS Utah. September the 4th, September 7th, 1941, the ship went over, it's still sitting in Open Bay right now. He also survived the whole war, September the 2nd, 1945, sitting in the Tokyo Bay, and right beside the USS Missouri, he was on the USS Detroit, watching the signing, the ending of the war, the Japanese imperialists. He said that's the best 18 minutes of his life. Because I'm 130-year-old, 35-pound, I'm sitting there crying, watching the signing. He is one of my heroes. Other than that, we're asking, we can come in here, use the park, we were going to have a barbecue cook-off, we decided to go against that, but, it's one of these things for tourism to bring into Lytle, bring it back to what we can do, and think we can make a difference again. But, just asking for the support of the council and the city. Other than that, that's all we have.
Larry, what kind of advertising are you doing out in the surrounding
We'll
community?
have advertising from every part of the base. We have availability for hitting Randolph. We have Ramsey, we have Blackman, we have, you name it, and we put out advertisements everywhere. Fort Sam, you name it, we have it. We've done one of these, we're not rookies at this. But advertisement, we do a lot of advertising.
Yeah, the next one, I just want to make sure that you have any questions concerning the plans that they're talking about or anything.
One thing is, we do have plans for another park right now, the park, we use the park, we did this for 6 years, and up to where we got a little bit old, now we have younger veterans to assist us. Very successful, brought in a lot of tourism. And I'm talking about created activity coming here, we got bigger and bigger, and, we've had a lot of people ask us, when are we gonna bring it back? And at one time, we had the Frenchy Park, we took over from the Frenchy Park, some things that we created something. I would say this, make a difference in Lytle, you bring it back, what we're trying to do. And it is the 20th year, so it's the 20th year of 9/11, and we're one of the very few cities that have one of the largest Freedom Walk in the nation. One of them, I think, New York City. We do create here in Texas, one of the largest. So we do have, people look at us, and they do look at the VFW. We do have a name. Yes, talking about, I'll turn it over to the chamber. What do you think about it?
Well, the chamber's role here is going to be to get together the vendors and food trucks to support, attracting folks to come out to the event. And we maintain a list of vendors associated with our farmers market that we do monthly here in Lidle. And we've got about 90 some odd vendors on our list. Not all are active all the time. Some are seasonal. But I very briefly floated some tentative ideas about this to some of our vendors today and got a lot of positive feedback. So I think our vendors will be very excited to participate. As far as the food trucks, I think most of you guys were involved or attended our food truck rally back in April. Real positive event, and all those food truck vendors are very anxious to come back out to Lidle. So we're looking forward to supporting the VFW, partnering with the city and all the other community partners to bring this event to life.
So what do we have to do tonight? Just make a decision to allow them to do it? Well, I'll make a move.
Well, thank you for the
Well, wait,
transition. Thank you for the
wait,
transition. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure to see if there's another.
I think there's some questions.
I'll make a move that we listen some more.
There you go. Any other questions?
Good question. They're wanting our support. What does that mean?
What we do,
Monetary.
here we do.
Well, actually, let's go ahead and move on into the next one, you know. so
First thing we
go
would
ahead
ask
and do
for,
that.
Mayor, was just using the park first of all.
So, and we're gonna talk, let me just officially go. Anything else on the plans? Everybody okay?
All right, I have a question. I know that other organizations that do a reading of all the names of people who died on September, but.
Sure.
How about y'all consider incorporating that into your programming as well? Because,
Look good.
you know, to me, it sounds like the morning is a very somber time, right?
Yeah.
Whenever the attacks happen. And I remember where I was that day, it's like pretty much everybody here does.
Yes.
It's like you never forget. And I remember where I was 10 years ago on the 10-year anniversary. I was in Bagram, Afghanistan, getting shot at.
Thank you for your service.
So, I mean, I'm not saying my issue with it, because I like it all. I like what the chamber does. I like what y'all do. To me, it's a very somber time. So, as far as playing up the economics impact, because I know that's going to happen regardless. But I'm thinking, hey, this time of year, if we have more of a party during Labor Day, and if we're going to continue doing the September 11th memorial, that, you know, the Freedom Walk, the moments of silence, that keep it somber. I understand the planning aspect. Maybe we got 2 months to make this happen, sort of deal. Those are my thoughts on it. That to keep it more toned down, as far as honoring those who lost their lives that day, and transitioning in the future, and we party another day, sort of deal. Because that's me. You know, I'm not one to go out on Memorial Day, and I'm not one to celebrate 9/11. Not that we're doing it, remembering the people that lost. I just want to keep that in mind.
We will have a names mentioned when we do a memorial that morning. We'll have some names. We have a moment of silence. We could bring some names up. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a touching event.
Yeah, it's you know, it's almost 3,000 people. So that's a little, you know, time-consuming thing. But that's for us to never forget, right? Is the people who died that day. So.
And we never forget our veterans of that also, many wars that we had.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
For our country. Thank you for serving in Afghanistan.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, Charles, and that somber moment will come in the morning.
Sure.
And then, of course, the walk. And then I think those people that did what they did to us would have liked to have seen us defeated. And this is our way of showing them that we're not defeated. We go on and they,
Some of the things we do, we have to bring back the moment. You know, we've had a lot of people ask us to bring back the festival. And, you know, no, and it's over and over and over and over. But ours is probably, you know, we as an association and nonprofit organization don't have time.
I think that's something we need, we don't have much, and you guys do a great job, so, you know, I appreciate what y'all do, and so I think that's something we need to have every year. We have a church festival, but this, you know, that's different, and you guys honor, I just want that with the whole convention.
I think everyone in this room has a relative or something that they have.
I have cousins.
And also, someone passed away. we will have a couple of people, when we talk about that money, that were at 9/11. One of them was, Frank Monier was there. He will be speaking that morning also.
Right, so true, so true. So let's make it official in the sense of, in the agenda portion of it. Moving on to D, consider and act upon the request from Vital VFW Post 12041 for funding the 9/11 20th anniversary celebration to include memorial ceremony, the Freedom Walk Festival, 5K, et cetera on there. You've asked about the park. Josie has asked about the funding that goes along with that, so.
We're asking somewhere, whatever, we did some numbers on that, we're asking for $9,872. Off of that, $2,000 that goes to the chamber.
That's a few $100 more, less than you asked, 10 years ago?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, it was 10,000 back then that we gave. This is,
What is
come
that
down a
for the
little bit.
fireworks you're talking about?
No, sir, that does not.
That doesn't include the fireworks, right?
No.
Josie, what-
No, it's a rate.
What would this come out of, the funds?
Well,
Hotel, motel?
they're, they're bringing people to Lidle. So, you know, beds and heads is what it's all about, so it could come out of that line item. Am I right, Tom?
Well, we might have the beds and the heads, or, you know, the heads and the beds. I was just looking at that.
I know they've gotten stricter with those.
Yeah. There's 9 categories. First, we have to have the heads to bed. Then it has to be for convention and visitor centers, which convention registration, advertising the city. The city fine is actually putting out media to advertise the city. Promotion of the arts, historical restoration and preservation, sporting events in the county under 1 million population, enhancing or upgrading existing sports facilities, sports fields, only in certain cities, tourist transportation systems, signage directing the people to sites and attractions. And that's it.
That's for the general fund?
No, this is for the hotel motel tax.
Yeah, those are the different categories
Yeah.
that you would consider falling into.
Yeah, how about on tourism?
Well, I think that Joseph tried to tell you that most of that money comes from, you know, the hotel motel. But just, you know, tourism itself, it's got to fit in one of the 9 categories. So, doesn't mean that you can't spend money from other funds to help them with this, project.
The one for sure that doesn't fit into one of those categories is the fireworks, and I know we've had that discussion in the past. So that would have to come from another pot line. You guys are bringing in the Warriors, bringing all those different people coming in and staying.
Yes, we have about 250 revenue warrior funds.
So we just need to make a determination tonight to, but
Hey, Mayor,
Yes.
if council's not wanting to go with the hotel tax, we did have 20,000, budgeted under activities and events. That's gonna be towards the end of our fiscal year. Right now, we've got over 13,400 left in that line item. Just for council's consideration.
The thing for consideration too is whether or not we want to do the fireworks. This one, you know, what they're actually doing, there is a little bit of tie to the motel tax, to be able to use that. If the council wants to do the fireworks portion, that one is a lot more limited, so that would fall into that category, so is that right, Josie? Out of the 13,000 that was available, so.
How much was the fireworks cost?
We paid 6,000 in the past.
You know, we talked before about, since we didn't have 4th of July fireworks, we're finding an applicable time. And,
yeah,
I heard what Charles was saying about the somberness of the moment.
That's what the morning, however y'all structure it, you know, that's what, I mean, that's the, you know, the important part, but I'm with you, that you gotta show the resolve that, hey, 20 years later, we're still here. So,
You'll be a gen, probably the post commander then also.
But I think we need the fireworks. We didn't have them then.
That'll bring people in.
It's, yes, absolutely.
Definitely will bring
We have a lot of people asking.
Brings people in, And as Josie said very aptly, we survived. And now we've been through COVID and we survived. And we're weary. And we need some flashback, we need some celebration.
Yeah, that would be separate. So we do that separate. Two separate pots, but we have to, that's what Josie said.
And just Mayor, keep it, we had our brief meetings, we're gonna need a budget for additional security, additional bringing in officers from other agencies. I don't know when we're gonna discuss that.
That was not included in your total security part.
And then, generators and all that stuff.
Oh,
Overtime for public work.
What were we looking at last time? That's something that's,
Well, at the time, we stretched it and tried to cover it, but our dynamics have changed. And I've got a guy getting married in '94, so I've already had 2 people that were gonna be on vacation offer to come in, come back to work for us for that day. But I've got 2 out, so I need, if the council approves the fireworks, then I'd have to look at staffing, because we normally get 1,500 to 2,000 people on a fireworks display. And I'll probably need, I'd probably say $1,500 to bring in on the top side, to bring in off-duty officers from somewhere else, to make sure we can cover the event and still provide necessary service to the community.
And that's for the full day during the
Well,
festival
It
and
would,
the run
yes, because now they're talking, if the run goes outside, we're gonna have to be working the walk, we're gonna have to be working the run. Now, and if we look at that, once I see the exact plans, it may be more. I've gotta look at the exact, I haven't seen any, on where they're gonna be running. If they wanna run in front of HEB with 500 people, now you're talking about a whole,
So do you think 1,500 may be a little too conservative?
well, I don't really know, because I haven't seen the plans, but I would say $2,000 on the high end.
Where does the school have their, they have bike packing?
It may be much less.
They pretty much,
The people that we have that are doing the event for us, they bring people also to stand them and lead them and everything. We only need them those 2 main, the officers to be those 2 main for that one. It's only gonna take like 30 minutes to an hour
I don't know, really.
for the 5K.
I like that, you know.
yeah, because the whole thing is probably no more than an hour.
Yeah, normally the runner's about 30 minutes or less. And then you got the walkers, and the longest is usually, the longest has been an hour, with the stragglers. And they have their own lead, they have a truck that leads them, and they have a truck that comes behind them and stuff, so.
So about the total of everything would be,
So based on what they're asking for, it's 9,800 on that. We have the expenses that are gonna be, along with that, Richie said, up to 2,000. We still gotta look at the porta potties, is that correct?
And the generators.
And the generators to go along with that. Do we have an idea on that at all, Josie? Maybe from last time? I know it's been a while, but, well, actually, we've done other ones here probably in the last 4
It's about
years.
1,000 for the generator and the porta potties. Generator's about 600, porta potties are about 100 apiece.
There you go.
Okay, but didn't y'all talk about needing more than 1 generator?
Probably need 2 generator and a half. You got advanced coming in.
two generators.
There's just
So-
no electric department.
So two generators and the porta potties, you said it was how much?
Porta potties are about $100 per day apiece.
Where did you get the generator?
And we got them in a rental place in San Antonio last time we did it. For our chili cook-off, we had a big generator. It was about about $540, but that was been 3 years ago.
Did you tell, James, did you tell me that place wasn't there anymore?
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
They moved. Used to be on Fisher Road.
Sal Aguinaga, he worked for Oldham, and he usually brings a generator to the church. I don't know if I can talk to him. I did that one for the city, but the electricity went down.
Maybe we can about 15,000.
That's what I'm doing the math. Is that what it sounds about to you?
Yeah, because I mean, 9872, you might as well round it up if you can. And
So
security,
two.
Richie said 2. And then the generators, if there's 2 of them, that's 1,200. And then the portables, depending on how many you get, it could be anywhere from $600 to $800.
And then
What?
from South, company,
65, but that, the 6,500 that he was charging us was over 4 days.
It's money, yeah, yeah.
You
And then, of
have-
course, the fireworks. So fireworks would add another 6,000, so 21,000.
And then any
Good thing we're not
overtime
having
from
to shut the
Public
cook-off.
Works.
We need about 10.
Well, but that's just covered in our budget anyway. I mean,
We're talking about changing the
So, so 15 total, and that includes
Well,
what they
that does
need.
not include, that doesn't include the fireworks.
No, correct. But includes everything else. So
I
15,
would say no more than 15. It's a little less than 15 is what I'm gathering. from here.
okay. So 15 for that, and it would be coming out of the tourism funds. Is that correct? And then the,
Council
yeah,
designates that, yes.
if you guys, we can look at that, and then Josie mentioned that there's 13,000 available on the general funds. If you guys want to do the fireworks, they would have to come out of the general, can't use the tourism money for that. So that's what we have in front of us.
To do the tourism fund for the 15 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we could use the 13,000 to take the fireworks out.
Is that the 6, or maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so that would cover.
That's why I would be used for that.
So we would do all the advertising.
So that's what we need to make a motion tonight.
That's good.
Okay, well, I make that motion into 15 grand for the, what we
For the
covered.
festival,
Yes, for the festival. And then whatever the fireworks display will cost will come out of the 13,000.
out of the events line item.
Yeah.
Enthusiastically say.
Mayor, just, so we've got, I can understand, so VFW, but the fireworks, that's gonna be the city, we're gonna actually be the one,
Sponsoring that.
and responsible for the fireworks. So we've got issues, fire marshal, we have to issue permits, make sure everything's in compliance. I wanna make sure that, that we have to, if something has to pull the trigger on that, if it's safety issues, that's gonna have to be back on us.
Let's make sure all the vendors are back on.
So in council, just so everybody knows, if we do, already got motions, we'll go ahead and put a vote
And a second.
in a second, yes. So I just want to make sure that we understand that for the fireworks, we still will need Josie to contact Johnny. Johnny. So, and make sure that still there's availability and based on the timeline. We did check with him and it seemed like he still had some, to be able to do some medium-sized fireworks, not the big ones, but medium-sized. But we need to make sure that they're available to be able to do that. But just so you know the caveat that goes.
He said he's got enough for about 3 events, something like that.
So, okay. So any other discussion on that?
What was the final total?
15,000 for the festival, not to exceed 15,000, and then the fireworks, which will probably be in the neighborhood of 6,000.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Thank you,
Jim,
Get out there.
Roger that. Thanks to you and thanks to the chamber too. Appreciate that.
It'll be like old times again. No, that's really it.
Like
When you get there,
Really good.
Get the school to do something in the way that the kids from the game.
Yeah, I think the school is already planning. You guys talked to the school and they were supposed to do some activities, right? So Josie is asking maybe the school can help us out with the names too. The portion about reading the names.
Reading of the names, maybe we could get them to do something, maybe have it at the pavilion where those names are out, where people
You
can
can
see
do that.
those.
If we can get all the art people and all that, you can put on something like that. We will.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, council. Okay, moving on, E, consider and act upon a contract renewal with Frontera Concepts. I think that one, we, oh, I'll let you. Okay.
I think we're still acting for needing to fix language on that contract.
That's correct. I looked at the contract and contract that we had with Frontera, did not include the firewalls. And now this contract is including firewalls. And, I was telling John that I had a little problem with, the identity language, in the contract that we had initially. And then he had kept the same language in there, but it's a different service that they're providing for us now. If someone comes, they were not doing firewall stuff, so now we have to be concerned with someone hacking into our system. And like John was saying today, one of the worst things that happened to us, they just froze everything. Not to hack and get our data, but if they just froze everything, we'd be in trouble. So I told John, I said, we need to figure out what the potential damages to the city would be if someone was to come in and do that. And I have no earthly idea what that would be. I think that a good place to look at would be TML on the insurance. And then the other thing that John and I talked about was, does the city even have cybersecurity insurance coverage? I don't know if we do or not, Lucy.
I have to go back and look, I can ask, I'm gonna say we probably do. I think that's come along, through the years,
Yes.
but I can double check.
And John and I, we were talking about that this afternoon too. 7 years ago, we wouldn't be talking like this.
Yeah,
Things have developed for the worse. So,
I will double check, but I'm thinking it is.
And just so everyone knows, the software that we were adding, along with the services, we installed that a couple of weeks ago at our cost. Just because I think the risk is too great, and it's just not something I wanted to hold off on. So we signature, in other words, kind of a trial for the software until we resolve whatever the language is, because we're really open to resolving the language. I have no problem adjusting the language to whatever it needs to be. But in the meantime, I think the threat is so great, especially with the acts of last weekend, where over 1,500 companies act with ransomware through one provider. And then the danger is it's too great for the city. So the software is already installed, at least a portion of the contract is already in play. And that's just for protection. It can be removed if, worst case scenario, we didn't come to terms. It would be removed at no cost. But I think that the danger was just too great. So we installed the software in a trial mode. And that's in play right now. And I'm sure we'll work out the language in the next couple of days.
So the portion of it, the prevention is so important for us to be able to do that. And the good thing is that we also have two good things that we actually have. The first one is the reactionary. We also have built in through AT&T, we have the DDoS that is built in to also back Frontera up in case something does happen. So we have that built in there to kind of help us out. Hopefully we never have to, but they have a team that will actually assist us with that too. And then the last portion of it is we're doing really good on time. Their contract actually expires in September. We got a few months, so we're doing really good. This gives us a chance to be able to coordinate and make sure that we get everything taken care of as part of the renewal that goes along with that. So works out really good.
The language is tied there, the liability portion. Obviously, we'd like to get it signed sooner than later so that the liability is actually active throughout the signing of the contract. So again, I see no issue with the language. As a matter of fact, that section we talked about for 12.2, we'd probably strike that. After talking to him, I called our council immediately after our conversation, and he said, well, we can strike that, right? Because it didn't apply 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right, it didn't apply.
Right.
So now it's just the liability.
right, we were talking about, John used the term, boilerplate. There's a lot of boilerplate protection in this contract for John and his company. And I understand that. So I'm looking at it as if we can figure out what our damages might be, we can put a cap on that. Right now, we got a cap of $5,500 for 3 months of payments. So that didn't cover the firewall. Now we've got, there's more potential liability there, more potential damages. So we need to look at that. And one of the things that John and I were talking about was, do we have this coverage for the whole city? The coverage that he's providing. And I guess we don't. The police department doesn't have the same coverage on firewall?
Well, that's what he's,
So that's part of this
that's
thing
what we're
now.
trying to
That's
do
part of
here.
what we're trying to do
You
now.
cover everything in the fire department, or in this department?
16,
The software would cover 16 devices, right? And that's the security software. Whether or not we manage the 16 devices like we do all the other devices for the city is still open, right? We're still discussing that about whether or not we'd be responsible, the physical support of those devices is not included in this.
But we definitely do, you know, I've
but the
talked to John.
security is.
We definitely do, that's why we want that in this, you know, we definitely do need that.
You would definitely have the security software in this contract.
So it's maintenance and security, and that's what we're referring to.
Yeah, the maintenance is not included for the police department, the security software is in this pricing. So there's still I think the point you're making there is, does the liability for that contract envelop everyone, right? And because we don't do the maintenance for the police department, it might be an issue where someone would say, well, that liability doesn't belong to us, only that related to the security software. But if it's a maintenance issue and it doesn't belong to us, well, it wouldn't be covered by that liability. So it's something to, you know, it's a point to consider.
Tom,
But
anything
no,
else?
that's it. So we need to just keep working. I think that we can do that and come up with some type of figure that we can put in the contract and take all this other stuff out. But the one particular clause that John was talking about, you know, we accept all the risk. And that's no good. That's no good. There's no need of having it if we're going to accept all the risk. So, so we can get that cleaned up.
Think we have it in 2 weeks when we meet again?
Maybe if we can find out about our cybersecurity coverage,
I'll call tomorrow.
talking with our TML insurance rep to see what he thinks that our potential damages may be in the event that we are attacked. I was telling John, you know, there are some organizations out there, some businesses that will actually attack your system to try to determine your weaknesses. And we're gonna have to do something like that sometime, John.
At some point, yes, we would, sooner than later, right? But compared to other industries and other entities like yourselves, that's a regular thing that happens on a quarterly basis. There's two aspects to that. Either the entire city network is under one provider, right? Or it stays the way it is as a hybrid, in which case you'll have two attempts to access network, right? So the cost will be double because you're trying to access two different entities, or it's all under one umbrella and they're attacking one entity. So that's something to consider in the future. At some point, there will be a compliance issue that says, hey, you have to have some outside entity try and do a friendly hack. And I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't pay for that yet, because we know what the results will be at this point. So we got to get to that level where everything is under one security umbrella. We can watch every single device, and we're not there yet.
So with that in mind, can I get a motion for us to table that either to next meeting or 2 meetings from?
Make a motion that we table it until the legal wording is straightened out and we're notified by the law.
Second. Any further discussion on that? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate your.
Thank you.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda, consider and act upon the request from Lidle Fire Department to allow them to trim trees around the city so that the fire apparatus can pass without striking low tree limbs.
Thank you for having us. I come before you, the fire chief of the police department. My request is to allow the fire department permission to trim trees as needed within the incorporated city limits. We have several locations where tree limbs are low, and we're driving $500,000 fire trucks under them, causing damage to them. We have the largest vehicles other than 18 that drive on our roads here in the city, and they're minor issues, really. Something that we could take 10, 15, 20 minutes to trim some trees, place them there on the side of the road for pickup. It's not something that I think we need to get Public Works involved in going to work. I mean, my opinion, right? They're already overworked and short-staffed as it is. We can go in 10, 15 minutes, trim some tree limbs real quick, get our apparatus by. It's good. There's another issue with the tree there that Gidley parking area that will work, I guess, with Mr. Rips, right? He can come in and look at that tree and determine what dead needs to be cut down. During the last storm, some larger branches fell out of it and damaged one of the trucks to a personal truck to a firefighter. So that's our request, is permission to be able to go throughout the city as needed and trim those trees if it's something that we can handle. If not, then we can issue to the city of Park.
I'll make that.
Second.
I've got a comment on this.
Discussion?
Yeah. I don't think it's a good idea to let the fire department do this. I think it'd be, if the fire department goes in there, if they do something to these trees, especially these old oak trees, and the oak tree dies, it's gonna be on them. I think a better procedure would be for us to contact the city, not the fire department, because I don't want liability on the fire department. For the city to contact the people on which, the land on which the tree is growing, and tell them, say, look, your tree branches are growing over the road, they're interfering with traffic, and we would like for you to find somebody to trim the trees the way that you want them trimmed, just so they're gonna get them up above your apparatus. And if you don't do that, well, then we're gonna come in 30 days, and we're gonna trim them, or we're gonna have somebody, an arborist to trim them. You need to just go ahead and hire somebody who's trained in this, and trim them the right way. So we're not going to endanger those trees. That's my concern. I mean, I'm sure I could go out there and trim trees, but I may not do it the right way. And this way, we give the property owners a chance to trim their own trees, they're gonna be a whole lot happier, I guarantee you.
I don't disagree with that. My only issue is we have code compliance. It's been an ongoing issue. I mean, everybody drives through the city. I'm sure you all drive down roads where your vehicles hit tree limbs. At some point, we need to do something, and we need to take, because I'm driving a $500,000 fire truck down the roads, and one of the main roads is right there at the fire station. The tree right there at the Gidley corner is overgrown, and then the olive oak tree right there. That's our main egress.
Tom, what's the value of an oak tree though? I mean, a large oak tree like I've got it, I mean, it's $50,000-$60,000.
I don't disagree with it. I'm just saying we've got to do something.
200 acres.
At some point, I don't know. I'm just asking for guidance then. And when can we move forward with this? I know before we've had public works just go out and trim trees, you know, or cut trees down. I don't know. So I'm just, at some point we got to do something so we're not driving $5 million projects down.
Give a list of the trees that are.
There's, I mean, I can go through and make a list and have it documented and submitted back to the city. All of Railroad Street going north out of town, all of it. It's a 1-lane road now. I can't, if there's 2 cars on that road, I don't have a choice. We will drag the entire side of our truck all the way down that
Well,
road.
that's a passenger guy. I do that in a police truck. I did that in a police truck. You scrape the whole side of your vehicle. Railroad Street.
The rate's great, but it's really made the trees grow.
So say for instance with that, if it's along that road, so we're saying that we're gonna rely on the property owners to take care of that?
Yes, give them the opportunity, the first opportunity to do that.
That's what they do in Divine, correct?
Right.
Well,
It's
isn't
not so
the
much
law
fire-
that you're supposed to take care of your own trees?
It's not so much fire equipment in Divine as garbage trucks. And they got a lot of oak trees over in Divine too. And they were getting, their garbage trucks were getting banged up. So that's what they did. They contacted the property owner, said, hey, your limbs are going over the street. We have the right to trim those limbs because they're over our street. But we're giving you the opportunity to do that with someone that you want. We're just not gonna, because I guarantee you go over there and start trimming trees and you're not telling anybody about it, you're gonna raise Cain.
So what happens, Tom, so say for instance, we put out the notice, okay? We figure out which places we're at. We put out the notice and say, we give them 30 days. So after 30 days, they don't do anything. The cost is still gonna be on us,
That's good.
right? So we're not gonna go back to the owners and say, hey, you need to trim your trees and this is how much it costs, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're just basically just giving them a chance to go ahead and do it on their own.
That's correct.
It's gonna be the liability on the city if we kill a tree.
Well, if we kill the tree, that's why I'm suggesting that we get an arborist to trim those trees. And most of the time, an arborist is gonna have an insurance policy that's gonna cover that.
So therefore, we're going to re-up some of these larger trees.
Matt, how many limbs are you estimating though? They're
I mean,
directly a
there's,
problem right now.
I can tell you Oak Street, just where we leave to go out our main egress, that road, there's several in there. Some are on the city's property are city trees, so I guess those would be pretty easy to trim, right? We should be able to get that permission from the city. Or get the city to trim their trees, but the other one is that lot that we just got cut that nobody lives in, it's been overgrown forever, so Skip, I guess, has got a contact info. And hopefully they cut their trees.
We got some
But I
on
can
Lone
make a
Drive.
list.
I mean,
Yeah,
we got-
I'll go through and make a list of all the trees. Just don't get shot. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
See the list.
and I'm more concerned about liability than anything. They don't, fire department doesn't need liability. We, as a city, we don't need liability. I don't.
What's the clearance on those fire trucks? How much, like, how
But
much
what
would
I
I
want
lift
to
them
see-
up? Cause like Chief said,
We need 15 feet.
yeah,
That allows enough room for when rain comes, for the trees to sag with the rain and still not catch top of our trucks. So,
we probably need to look at doing something. Otherwise, we're gonna be out here doing this every year.
yeah, I mean, this is something that we probably, if we're gonna do something serious, then a tree company comes through the entire town and trims all our trees up.
I just
Pretty
know
expensive.
from trees I have on my lot, right, we got, Ipoxilon canker, and it spreads, and the way that stuff spreads, apparently all the trees have it, right? So if you don't disinfect your pulsar or whatever you're doing, that you could spread it to another tree. That's my thought on it, that stuff's out there. On top of that, oak wilt too is a big thing. So, I mean, of course, you have optimal times to be trimming your trees and pruning them back, and I'm not an arborist, I just, I cut trees down and burn them, I don't,
I never pretended to be one either, so. So we'll just make a list and submit it back to the city and.
Yeah, I mean, just so, motion, I'll make a list and bring it back to the city and then, again, that's.
So you want to rescind your motion?
I'll represent that.
We would do that, and yeah, just give us a list, and so we can go ahead and.
So I need to submit that back to council in 30 days, or I can give it straight to Josie, so code compliance, send the letters out to the owners.
It's an administrative thing, and
Yeah.
that'd be fine, you know.
Yeah,
Matt
I'll
get
get this,
the
yeah.
City secretary and then the code compliance can get the letters out.
And then I can work with Skip to see where we are in these stages, so if we just don't keep kicking the can down the road, you know. I'm gonna get it done in 30 days, and we don't, I'm gonna get it done in 30, you know. Like I said, that's,
Somewhere in all this, we need to talk about how much arborists charge to do trimming. I know, I've got a lot of trees on my property and I know how much I pay. We're talking,
Yes, sir.
in there to do this with an arborist.
Well, I think, Dave, once we do it, you know, some of these big branches, I mean, they're not gonna go back, you know, for years.
Sure,
You know, so,
but, you know, to get up in a tree and take a couple big branches out high enough that they're not gonna grow back, you may get a $500 bill on one tree.
absolutely.
Don't be surprised.
I 100% agree with you. Won't be
But if
cheap.
we kill a tree, we may be looking at $5,000 or much more, you know, so.
Just a minute.
Can I ask a question? If you send out the code compliance and give them 30 days to trim it, they don't do it, the city does it, are you able to bill the homeowner or the property
No,
owner?
that's a question we
Yeah,
asked.
that's usually when letters are sent out and they're given a certain amount of time. If we get somebody to go in, then we turn around and bill the property owner.
That was a question I just asked,
Yeah.
and the understanding was that we don't.
You know, this is different. I mean, you can build if you want. You know, it's gonna be a homestead. We can't get a lien on it in most cases. It's just a cost of government.
So, because we definitely do. I will tell you, driving around town, there's a lot of areas, and unfortunately with the equipment that they actually have. And down railroads, without a doubt, and that's been going on for years already. We've had some issues down that road without a doubt. So we definitely need to go ahead and take a look at it. Is there anything, Tom, if we actually had the city where we would be covered under our insurance for something like that?
That's a question for city secretary.
Okay.
Double check. that.
Can you please check, see if we're covered, and maybe that gives us another flexibility of being able to have our own, be able to help out, especially in the immediate area around the firehouse, you know, in that area.
I mean, if there are trees, we can cut them down. I mean, if we comply with tree ordinance.
You said that one's dead, though.
Well, that one
Well,
that's been
there's-
talked about is.
Well, no, so the one in the parking lot is
Is it all
I think
dead?
about half of it. I'm no arborist, half of it's dead to me, you know, if it was my tree, I could put it
Well, we
down.
got Mr. Rips scheduled to take a look at that.
That's what I say, maybe Mr. Rick can come look at those trees and let us know. But there's some that run along when you're leaving that firehouse on Oak Street, on the right-hand side, that are on the city's property that are overgrown over. But they also intertwine with the ones on the left side that are private property too, so.
James, do you have anything to say about that?
They just put a brand new oak tree 5 or 6 years ago right in front of your station.
I know, and now the one right around the corner is
City
overgrown
right away,
on the city right of way.
right under an oak tree.
Right where all the water lines for the sprinkler
Who
system.
did that?
Mass.
Whenever they designed that,
The city did.
the city did.
Yeah.
And that one is now overgrown, where we hit it just trying to leave and back in. As I say, we got a lot of trees that are just,
We need more people.
Not in the right spot.
well,
Yeah, in the right
that
spot.
and just
I agree with that.
people going out.
Okay, so
Okay.
we got the list of tree areas, go ahead and look at code compliance, being involved, notification for homeowners. We're gonna go ahead and check with TML on the insurance.
You can trim my Arizona ash, I don't care.
As long as it doesn't block the roadway, I'm
The
good.
lists are gonna come out, insurance. Why don't we do this, why don't we just go ahead and,
I got a new man.
we go ahead and plan for in 30 days, see where we're at? I mean, in a sense, go ahead, whatever we can do, that we're capable of, let's go ahead and start taking it. But let's go ahead and have a update in maybe in 30 days. Just come back to council and let us know where we're at, what we've taken care of, where we're at, see if we've learned something different. Everybody feel comfortable with that? Okay. Do we need a motion on that?
So again, Mayor, I think it's administrative proceeding, so you guys have given the city secretary directions.
And the fire chief.
And the budget.
I'll work on that. As long as I'm Friday, I'll get it done Friday.
Would you like Skip to go with you and make that list?
No, I'll be in a fire truck, so I can run on and go straight out.
Oh, okay.
But I'll make a detailed list for you.
All right. Okay, we are at 7:54 right now. Why don't we go ahead and take our break now? Let's go ahead and take a break. Richie, did you want to talk to the council about the shirts during the break, or? So we're looking at.
Yes.
So just like Sam has, you know, we have shirts that have our names and everything else. We're looking at trying to get some shirts for.
Just give me your shirt just like that, give me your size, I can get them going this week.
So during the breaks, I'll get with you so you can collect information on that, okay, what you want on it, since the name and stuff. So,
I think we're gonna just go I think for simplicity and finding the style that, I think we're just gonna go with black shirt identical to that, unless anybody has any preference, I can get those with all the embroidery from my guy, because I know a guy, that story, and the uniform plates are $25 a pop. You know, which is,
Give me a large, extra large.
well, you lost
well,
weight.
you can get one for Jerry
I
too.
need an extra small.
Extra.
I'll make
Jerry
a
needs an
list.
extra small. Okay, with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, 7:55. Everybody got it with Richie on the shirt? That'll be good. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on. Let's go ahead and go back. We're in action item G. So discuss and consider taking action on lowering the speed limit on city streets to 25 miles per hour. Alderman Kate. I think you gave us two.
I did, the first one that's stapled together, it pertains to lowering the speed limit. That second page, that's got that big highlighted paragraph, talks about speed bumps, which we're gonna get into here in the next couple items. But looking into what our options were in addressing the speeding going around the city, I found, that's the second page in the little packet is a article from TML. The highlighted portion reads, the only instance in which a city may lower a speed limit without a traffic study to as low as 25 miles per hour is if the road is in an urban district, is less than 4 lanes, and is not a state highway, which would be pretty much every street in the city with the exception of 132 and 2790. Talking about city streets now. Of course, the second page of that reads that that speed limit that is altered by a city is effective when the governing body erects signs stating notice of the new limit. Whenever I came across that information, I wanted to bring it before the council to discuss this matter and consider it as well, because I don't think that the speed bumps should be our only option. I think we should consider everything that's out there. So that's what I'm bringing for you all. The last page is an abstract. It's a study from AAA talking about how lower speed limits reduce the risk of severe injuries and death. If y'all would like to see that full study, I can email it to y'all after this meeting. I just didn't want to print out 20 pages, but makes sense, right? We're trying to get people to slow down. We're also trying to create a more walkable city that we make it safer at the same time. That it's just going to make things better for us all. So.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Did you ever, Charles, did you ever talk to anybody? For some reason, I remember we asked this question some years back. And why, the reason why that in the past the council said no, we didn't want to reduce it to 25. Richie, do you remember in the past about reducing it?
You mean in all streets?
Yes.
Well, I don't think we've ever had, the all streets, because see, this prima facie speed limit is 30 miles an hour inside a municipality if it's not marked. So majority of our streets, many of our residential streets are not marked, for example. So we never did discuss that, because if you went to 25, you'd have to mark every street in town, or it would be 30. But we have some city streets that it's not 30 now. We have city streets that the speed limit is 35, and city streets that the speed limit is 40. Those being Railroad Street, which if you drive on that right now with potholes, you're taking your life in your hands. Wisdom Road going out of town. Norvell Street is already 25, or is it 20?
No, you speed 20, but our codes don't allow 20.
So Norvell brought up to 25. That's the rest of, no, Benton City Road is 30 in the city.
30 in the city.
So, so I don't know of any time we've looked at the entire city.
Never have looked at
The reason certain streets we talked about, but then I was under the impression that it required some sort of traffic survey and you had to have that. Used to, cities could lower it to 20 miles an hour. The state said, what, no more, right? Or
Yeah.
Basically. So I think that's when we had the discussion, is when you could lower it lower than 25.
So instead of putting them to think about lowering all of them, how about just take consider the streets that are a problem and, talk about lowering them to 25. not
So,
all the streets, but
So-
the ones that seem to be, problem streets.
so the food for thought, based on some information too, and this is with speed humps, I guess, the eligibility, if you wanted, so say for instance, we brought it down to 25, then looking at this, it said the speed limits.
That's San Antonio's guidelines. It doesn't mean we have to follow it. That's just what they tell the communities if they request it.
Oh, so this is San Antonio, okay.
Right. So if you live on a street that's 25 miles an hour already, city won't put speed bumps.
Got it. So food for thought in a sense, anything 25 or below, they don't put speed bumps. Or humps.
That's
Humps.
not binding on us.
So the whole problem that brought this up was, citizens complaining about certain, roads. And so if we took the roads that people have been complaining about and used it as a guide, lowered it to say 25 to see how it worked out. And, that's to me, that makes sense instead of, then marking those particular roads, that were, seems to be troublesome.
I think still, in my opinion, people just, they don't look at the signs. We have a stop sign or stop sign coming, I see a lot of cars that just run through. And our speed limit is 30 and those cars go faster than that.
So you feel speed bumps are a better option?
I don't know.
Has
We
it
have
worked for
people
you?
on our speed, they just,
Has it worked for y'all?
no, not really.
Yeah, I think to make them work, I think you have to have more.
Yeah.
When yours was the first speed hump in the city.
Right.
And, we didn't know what to expect. We knew it was just like Prairie Street. We knew it was gonna be, one was gonna be limited, We knew two on Prairie Street was limited, but we were gun shy. We'd never done it before. And I think that's why we went with what we went with.
And we saw some reduction with the two
Yeah,
on
you
Prairie
did have,
Street.
yeah.
So it made a difference.
Yeah, but if you go to some of these other cities, if you travel some of these other cities, you go to San Antonio, there off Eisenhower Road, there's a couple streets I was on, or get over there behind North Star Mall where people cut back in off 281, and boom, 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 boom.
Well, I've seen them, around school districts more than anything, where I've seen them in town.
They found these streets that cut through streets. That's what, get over around Medical Center, there's some residential streets over there, they're fairly heavily speed humped. Now, I will tell you, I still go down them because you can avoid a lot of traffic, but you have to be patient.
Yeah, there's some over by South San Antonio.
Yes, there are, yes, I went over those just recently.
So Charles, since the last group of people we had, well, we did have, recommendation from North Perry, but since we had a group of people talk, did you run this to them or just ask them, how they would feel about whether the speed limit or the speed humps? Just wondering, see in the sense of how they would feel.
You're talking about Lyle Somerset.
Lyle Somerset, that's right.
Joseph, he lives over on Lyle Somerset, so, and how would you feel about speed bumps in your neighborhood?
I'm never excited about speed bumps.
How about lowering the speed limit?
That would be, if we're not gonna do every street in the city, and we're just kind of seeing how this works, I think lowering the speed limit's a little cheaper than adding a bunch of speed bumps to start with. But, see how it goes.
What's the cost of those speed humps, chief?
Well, I send an email out to y'all and, I can go ahead and tell you, it's basically, if you put 6 heavy-duty speed humps like what we're using on Lyle Somerset Street, material that you're gonna need, not counting labor, is gonna be about $11,000 for 6. You put 3 of them on Prairie Street, that's gonna run you about $4,500. Looking at about $15,500, that's concrete, that's poles, now, once we knew for sure, we're gonna go in there and get exact measurements. See, we're not a master plan community. The road's wider in some spots than it is in other spots. And on Lyle Somerset, you've got curves on one side, which affects that as well. So I wasn't gonna try to,
get an exact figure until we knew we were gonna do it. Then we would find locations, measure locations, but this would be the top end. 15,000 plus labor. I also talked, did some research, talked about the speed cables. More expensive design to get the speed down around 25 to 27, which is not really much lower than the speed limit. So I don't know. And they look like they're more expensive and a lot more intricate to install because they're modular, where a hump is just, one here, one here. This is humps built next to each other. So the roads, again, our roads are not master plan, brand new. That would work great out there. You could get the dimensions, but here on a lot of these roads, you're not going to have those easy fit. It's going to be very hit and miss.
Richie, what's your opinion on lowering the speed limit? Do you think it wouldn't matter? Personally, I don't think people.
Unfortunately, Lyle Somerset,
Any more than they do now.
okay, Prairie Street, if you lower the speed limit, I can do speed enforcement over there. Lyle Somerset, you can lower the speed limit, but speed enforcement over there is very difficult. Because of the placement, the narrowness of the street. Where do you sit? And any of you are welcome to come ride with an officer someday and we'll show you how, we'll set somewhere and show you the options and it'll open, kind of show you what I'm talking about. It's difficult. Some places are very easy to do speed enforcement. Some are very difficult. Lyle Somerset is very difficult. But our numbers don't show that if there are, they're probably closer to your house where they hit this, because they're coming off that deal. Because it stopped.
Our numbers didn't show the speed as much as really the volume is our issue on Lyle Somerset.
And the other issue that the residents were saying, they just can't get out of their driveways.
So speed humps will make them back up even more.
My personal opinion, the speed humps are gonna make it even harder. Because now the cars are slowing down and backing up even more when you're trying to back out. I don't know that to be true, I'm just thinking of realistically.
I wish I could tell you I had if you did this, I think this will work. Speed humps, we can stop speeding on Lyle Somerset, on Prairie Street with speed humps, if you put enough in between that and enforcement. Lyle Somerset, I'm not sure.
What if, we just, had a lot of signage before you hit the speed humps, let the people know there's 6 speed humps ahead of you, to where maybe they detour to go down the, instead even the access road.
I think they're gonna do the same thing I do. They're gonna just know the speed humps are there, and they're just gonna,
Are you surprised how many people try to avoid speed humps though?
I think
they put
so.
the signs in the right location, like right before they turn from the access road, you go by the car wash and all that, that would keep them straight.
But the majority of these people are gonna be repeat people. So the first time they go there, if they don't like the speed humps, they're gonna remember and not come back. But,
I'm thinking if we had the signs notifying them that there's 6 speed humps ahead of you, if you choose to go down the street, that's how we get some of the traffic off of that
But
street.
I think the majority of people that are using that street are gonna be people that habitually use it, so they're gonna know, the first time they go down, they're gonna know there's 6 speed humps there. And if I'm from out of town, or if I'm getting off the interstate, my GPS tells me to get to HEB that way, I'm gonna say, I don't care, speed hump's fine with me, I'll just go slow. What would you do if you're in a town you're not familiar with? My wife's not gonna let me, well, let's go down here. She's gonna say, no, you're gonna get me lost. I'm going by my phone.
Most of the people that come to HEB are not.
The best story is when you get lost, though.
I know.
So I don't know, but
I can tell you, I've seen in stuff we do every day working traffic accidents where we detour traffic or anything. We're creatures of habit. We go this way all the time, that's the way we go. And we're just gonna put up with whatever's on that road.
Why don't we do the simple thing first and try a speed reduction on the Atlantic Somerset Road and see how it works. We can always see how it works and then go with the next option, a more expensive option possibly. But that's an easy fix and to see how it works. Post the signs like it says in the information we have here, to post the speed limit there, so it'll change
There, Charles just asked also consideration.
What about North Prairie as well?
That's near the school.
Right, that's the one where we
Yeah,
got
that's
the
the one
speed
going on in Watertown.
That's
Oh,
the
no, no.
Baptist church.
It's got the speed humps already.
You got 2 speed bumps out there right now.
I would say if we're not gonna put speed humps on North Prairie, that if we can lower it to 25, lower it to 25, maybe that'll. But the kickback on this is, at some point in time, police officers are gonna be writing tickets for 33 miles an hour on that street, for 8 over on a residential street, 9 over on a residential street. So that, we'll give warning, but at some point in time, terminology, drop the hammer and say, look, it's the speed of it, the city has put this at 25. Where I live is 30 miles in front of my house. I don't want everybody driving 39 miles an hour. I want them driving closer to 30. If the speed limit is 25, I'm gonna want people driving closer to 27, 28, not 35. So that's something, but that's an enforcement issue, and we can do whatever. I mean,
So the only thing to take into consideration is North Bend Street. There, when we started doing the humps, people were saying, hey, we got a lot more traffic going through there. So people were actually going down the lake and then going down North Bend Street. So it might be good as we do this to also pay attention to that area.
well, Mike, if we think that's an issue and we're gonna do this and we actually have something to make all of, then you make North Bend 25 as well. I mean, if we're ordering speed limit signs, it's the more you buy, the cheaper they are.
That's true.
So Josie, what do we need to do? Is there anything in the sense of changing it to 25?
Well, there'll have to be an ordinance enacted.
Yeah, the
Right,
sideline
Tom?
on the.
Yes.
It'll have to be,
Maybe
but
it's
if
a little slow,
y'all
so
are
you can-
pretty sure that y'all are you order him to draw up the ordinance. In the meanwhile, we can get those signs ordered, that way we don't waste any time,
So that's-
You have to have the signs erected before you can report them.
So, then that'd be what we would do tonight, is to ask for an ordinance of 25 miles per hour on said streets. Okay, and so the streets in question would be, there's 3.
I would recommend for council to consider North Bend Street.
Yeah, the extension that runs alongside the cemetery.
That's
From Laredo
on the map
to Lake.
right now.
America.
Looking at what we're talking about.
So here's your North Prairie Street.
So this is just to kind of, this is, that long stretch, that runs, that's got 2 speed humps on it. That's why, that's probably the longest stretch besides Railroad Street, like one of the city roads in town. So that's why you get a lot of speed. And then what's happening is they're gonna come down here and they come down North Benton to avoid speed humps and to avoid, it's almost a little quicker if you're going, then they come down here and they zoom down here by Councilman Emery's house and they get this and they head on into town. Head over to the, the.
Well, we see them cut Somerset because of the, Somerset's kind of light.
That's
whereas
another
Prairie
issue.
doesn't. Sometimes you can do light quicker.
So a lot of people are gonna always go to Somerset or what I do is I'll go up, come up out of the railroad and come to the light over here on Main Street because it's less traffic.
So, Chief, if we did Prairie and Benton and Somerset, I mean, we would ultimately to try to divert them down 2790, right? And are we trying to get a traffic light there anyways? I mean, if we have that increased volume, is TxDOT gonna come back
The
and
whole
say, we got the
issue,
numbers
the
now?
whole issue with a lot of that is 2790 needs a lot. That's what it comes down to. Now, the issue is TxDOT, it's very complicated because when you have a railroad crossing so close to that, everything has to be synced with the railroad. And the railroad, it takes, TxDOT said, several years. The railroad is very powerful. They built this country and they'll remind you of that, when you deal with them. So that is something and that's good. I mean, the railroad does a lot of good. We couldn't,
Did that come into play at North Somerset?
what do you mean?
No, it's far enough away.
We're not gonna be butting
It
heads with
should-
the
it does.
state, though, it's gonna be TxDOT.
Yeah, no, it's not,
going
and it's not, the railroad will work with us 100%. It's just, it's time consuming and TxDOT has to stay on top of it.
it's just a switch.
Cost,
You need-
remember the cost?
I think if we get
The
the
cost
traffic
was
there, it
$1
won't matter.
1 million.
When they agree to it.
$1 million for the railroad to, put it, that's their cost to coordinate their red line, with not counting what TxDOT. So that's what TxDOT told us, so, but anyway, that is our goal we need to, of course, that's our goal we need to work towards. So, they're not gonna go Light Street and come down Wisdom, that's too far out of the way. They're gonna be forced onto this street here. And then you are seeing, and I live over here, and you are seeing people come over here in front of the library, Brook Cottage, to work their way back to the red line as well. You're seeing a lot of that. You're gonna see like a display at a children's museum where it's a big table, the water's taking the path of least resistance. That's what you're seeing with the traffic.
For the water
You can just-
trade.
What?
It's for the water traffic.
Water traffic. Anyway, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing traffic do that every day. You're seeing- Well, the school year, it's just like everybody, they know, and everybody finds a little path and they stick with it. So it's, but that definitely lowering the speed limits. I mean, of course, the other side of that is actually enforcement. Now, those streets are both very easy to do speed enforcement on. I can park on the side of the road. I can use a handheld laser. I can park different places. Very easy to do speed enforcement because we've got enough room to pull cars over on the side of the road. You pull somebody out with a model Somerset, you block up the whole road.
So, got 3, maybe 4
Can I have a
streets.
question? We lower the speed limit on,
Wallace?
Diaz Street.
Yes?
Yeah, because there's a stop sign when there's a stop sign. I almost got hit.
One at the
That's
end of the
other car.
street, at
They
that
don't,
intersection that leads back to the park.
yeah,
Yeah.
they don't stop there. On the stop sign.
Be surprised if people think that there's
I
not
even-
much visibility there, they're gonna run it. I see it all the
I even
time.
saw a kid hit the stop sign, it's a brand new car. Spun around.
And I want to explain something. I drive a police car most of the time, okay? So people don't run stop signs and stuff. Majority of the time I'm in town, I'm in a police car. People don't run stop signs in
No,
front
they
of me.
see the vehicle.
Exactly. Well, they know me. I'm long arm of the law. Today, I had some stuff I need to mail. So I left the police station, took a little break, drove to the post office. And it's my Suburban. I came back out, and a guy running the stop sign down there almost caused an accident right in front of me. Of course, I reached down to hit my lights. Of course, I don't have, I'm in my personal vehicle. I realize, Anyway, so it happens. Yes, these people are running stop signs. These people are out there, it's
So, council, so far we got North Perry, North Bend, Idle, Somerset, and Diaz. Do we want to start with 4 and see how that goes?
Are we just gonna do, we're gonna do all of North Prairie, or we're just gonna do that stretch of North Prairie from 2790 to 132? Because North Prairie carries over, right, on the other side of 132?
okay.
Yeah, it goes to South Prairie and then Florence.
So we're gonna say, to specify.
I thought that maybe it would just go to Laredo. I thought just to Laredo, because you go further down, you're gonna hit the school, and they already have the slope, you already got the slope portion that goes along in there, right?
Now,
Yeah, but only during certain hours,
Yeah.
so why not keep the
I
24 all the way?
will tell you, I think if we're gonna do Prairie, from Frank Captain Ray's was right there on Prairie Street, and that's for 10 years or so. And there's, oh yes, Anyway, so what happens is, a lot of people will, they're speeding on North Prairie Street in front of the school and stuff during the weekends. So I would say if we're gonna do North Prairie, do it all.
It needs to be all North Prairie, from Maine all the way up to 2790.
And we've also, yes, and that's also got a no truck zone as well. We need new signs for that while we're
If
doing
you're gonna do that, do all of North Prairie too. What happens, because you know where I live on that corner, people come down the extension of North Prairie, they clear the cemetery, they clear the bumps, and they hit the gas. And by the time they're to the primary school
Yes, sir.
and down Main Street, they've got to be going 40 or more.
Yeah, well, then they are probably. So
This
that's
is almost
true.
every night.
Well, then, I mean,
All North Bend.
if you're gonna do North Prairie all the way, you need to do North Benton all the
I
way.
think so, yeah.
From Lake to.
From Lake all the way to Maine.
Maine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then
We do Somerset.
That's what I said, we're gonna look at Somerset or not. Somerset from Main to
Somerset
Laredo.
Street to.
Laredo to 132.
132.
I was just gonna do 10.
So what is Somerset?
From Laredo to 132, all over Somerset.
We wouldn't do Somerset all the way out
And then
to
those speed trailers.
Lytle, Somerset. I mean,
Well, if you want to get aggressive, then, you know,
That corner that you
Well, let me
mentioned,
tell you what.
I've seen them in my
Yeah,
neighbor's
Somerset
yard, because they
Street,
hit it
let's
so
get
hard,
some
they fished down
speakers
into
on
the
that.
yard.
I know Robert and Debbie Hunt, they said that one, I don't know how long ago it was, but they had somebody on that curve come through their fence one year. Who knows, it might have been 30 years ago.
it's been a while.
It's been a while.
I guess when
worked at
Cowtown was
Somerset.
still out operational. So.
But it's still happening.
It still happens.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
crazy turns
Well,
out there.
and what Joseph says, a lot of those people, they end up, losing control, they strike the fence, they just get in their car and leave. So we never even know about it, but the next morning when you go out there, you tell somebody who's in your yard.
We see it all the time. We just, they're gone by the time it happens. We can't. call you.
So what is that though? Like, because the state picks up maintenance of 3175 right there.
At that Oak Tree.
Is it at Gate Street?
It's just past Gates.
Yeah,
It's clearly marked.
yeah, it's
it's
where they're gonna
all-
change it. I can-
Two Gate.
It's past George's house.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just past George's house.
you can't really see, but it's
I'm just saying, how do you word
right
that?
here somewhere.
To the state maintenance.
Yeah, you can kind of see, right, you know it here.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, trying to get my little guy there.
Laredo,
Laredo.
yeah.
Yeah, when you go to street.
But I'd say we just go to the state, where the state maintenance is, if we're gonna do it.
Or where state maintenance begins.
Again, you know which way it's coming from.
So we're up
You
to
can see it in the
five,
Oak Tree.
we're up to 5 streets now, is that correct?
So there you go.
Yes.
And there's George's house right
George's
here,
house.
and it's right there. There's the sign.
Because we don't have, our streets don't have, we don't have, stripes in any municipal streets. Those are only gonna be state roads.
So you got Somerset, we got Lytle, Somerset, and then we got Diaz.
And I would like to do this right. When we get those signs, we need to buy the brackets and get the little flags that go on there, the temporary flags we can put on there to bring attention to the signs. I think that's an excellent thing I've seen, it's not very much more expensive, but we can, once we're through with,
Would you,
acknowledging.
give me a list of how many signs you think we need for each street, so when we order.
We'll look at all that.
look
We'll
at
look at all that.
So I would, so when you start looking at, and I'm not gonna deviate from, James, I don't wanna deviate from this discussion, but as we start looking at these signs, let's pay close attention to where we're gonna put some of these in those flooded areas. Let's get the signs that already have the built-in sign that says water.
Oh my gosh.
TxDOT said no. Said if you fold it and someone has a wreck, you're liable. And he says those signs have to sit up full-time, open 24/7. TxDOT said don't fold them.
What, I'm trying to understand this. Because why wouldn't you?
If that sign is folded and there's water going on the road and someone hits the water and that sign's not showing them that it's there, you're liable. TxDOT said leave that
What's the
sign
difference
open all the
between that
time.
and not putting the sign out?
Huh?
What's the difference between that and not putting the sign out?
If you haven't, it's not,
Yeah, but if we don't put the sign out, say for instance, we manually go out there and put the sign out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't have the sign out, what's the difference between that and having it folded up?
that's what he said. He said if it's folded and someone hits the water, you're liable. TxDOT told me do not fold it.
Well, I think it's on our streets when you run through TMA.
I'm just, and I'm with you, I'm looking at it as the temporary signs, but I'm just asking the permanent signs.
Those are supposed to be, they're gonna be permanent.
Okay.
We're gonna put,
Don't they have smaller signs that you put just below other signs that say, water can
They flood what way?
occurs, and there's certain warnings. that I
That's,
think-
all I'm saying is just check into it, and if we can, we can, but it's there. I'm also thinking like in the bridges, they have folded up and it says ice might occur,
Well,
right?
look, you know, I mean.
Fold them up and down, right?
Can you look at that, Tom? See what, I mean, that's what I would think. If it's-
I'm just saying, just so we can save time, you know, if it has a flip down, you know, it doesn't mean that we gotta get Public Works to go around in those areas to put the signs out, we can just flip them down, right? You know, if we're allowed to.
If nothing else, we get some quick mounts and we go, we
Or
at least,
quick mounts.
we figure out the other option, we mount them with a quick mount bracket where we can run out there and put the signs up.
Yeah.
There's some options.
I've seen those, they're always open, not closed, so they'll watch the water on the road.
And I think we're talking about two, yeah.
Watch for water over
I see them
the
in the vine out front.
Yeah, I think we're talking about two different things. One is watch for over road. I think what the mayor's talking about is actually, hey, the road, you know, we've got water is over the road closed or something like that as well. You know?
If we can, we can, but if there's any way if we're gonna buy the poles and do all that, let's figure it out what we can do. And maybe be able to save us some time and also save Public Works some time, we're having going out there. We can do that, even with a quick mount version, and goes with that, just food for thought. Okay, so we're North Prairie, North Bend, Vital, Somerset, Diaz, and Somerset, those are the 5 that we have. So, anybody wants to make a motion that we actually go ahead and,
I make a motion that we go ahead and take those streets and lower it to 25 miles per hour.
okay? Second, Joseph, okay? Any further discussion on this? Anything else? This will be good, a good test run and see how it goes and we can figure out, see what we can do.
What is the distancing on Diaz Street?
I don't know, it's what.
From where do you?
All of D Street or
All
just a
of
certain
Diaz
section?
Oh,
They come up the street and they come up to the stop sign.
I think we're gonna do Diaz, it's so
It's
short,
about
we
2
do all,
blocks.
All of Diaz?
I think all of
2
Diaz,
blocks.
yeah.
You know, when I first became a councilman, that was a question that more people talked to me. There were ones that would tell me, why don't you, have the street, the speed limit faster than 30 miles an hour? And other people would say, have it slower. So about the equal number of people would be telling me, y'all, raise the speed limit a little bit in town, then others would, can you lower it? And so that was a big, concern with a lot of people, the speed limit.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just a thought, no one's talked about, especially on the Vital Somerset, if we put a bunch of speed bumps in there, we already had flooding problems down there. How would a speed bump or a series of speed bumps complicate the water problem? It's just something to think about in the future.
Keep that thought. We're gonna get to that on the action item, see if we have anything. So keep that thought. Okay. Anything else on decreasing to 25 miles per hour? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there you go. All right, a little bit of homework and good possibility for us to be able to help each other out on that. Okay, H, consider and act upon the speed humps for Lytle Somerset Street.
Yeah,
Okay,
we hadn't talked about what's gonna happen to water if we put 2, 3, 4 speed bumps down Vital Somerset when we have flooding on both ends of it already. Down by Joseph's house, big cement ditch down there is a lake or a river. And then we have Taco Bell, the extension of it.
My opinion, I think we can't put anywhere in that area, and then we're not gonna be able to complete the whole roadway, at least next to the curb, we're gonna have to come off that curb
Yeah.
some to allow the water to
But I
flow.
don't think really, that's not really where that water's coming from. Predominantly that
Yeah, that's
water,
coming out of that creek right
that creek is our biggest issue. And
Maybe we
then up
wanna
there.
try the lowering of the speed
But
limits first, to see
yeah.
if we even go on this.
That was kind of what I thought it was one or the other.
I thought it was one or the other.
It could be both.
That's what that's what the whole idea.
It could be
That's
both.
kind of what I thought, lowering the speed
This
instead of
other-
going speed humps.
You know, we already established that. What we're looking at now is a moot point.
Yeah, I think that it'd probably be a good idea to see how this goes over. Maybe if it works well, we want to put in speed bumps.
That's what.
It doesn't
So
go
we
straight
need
to
a motion to
spikers.
table
Yeah,
this.
and then those spikes.
The neighbors could just go
I
mad.
make a motion, we table this item until we see the results of the reduction in speed limit.
I'll make the motion that we table
You want to second it?
I'll second. Okay, I didn't hear you correctly. I'll second David.
Second. Any further discussions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. I consider an act upon additional speed bumps for Northbury Street.
I make a motion, we table this until we see the results of the speed reduction efforts.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, awesome. Okay, Jay, consider an act upon approval of primary plats for the Dunford property.
Okay, y'all have the packet. Y'all have the minutes of the zoning commission, and y'all have the letter from the engineer along with the plat. He said they had, the plat had been done according to the city's code of ordinance, and the zoning commission looked at it and agreed that they should recommend to council that the preliminary plat be approved.
Jerry makes a motion for us to do that. Go ahead and approve this.
Second.
Okay, Sam, got a second? Any further discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, consider an act upon the preliminary budget for FY 2021 and 2022. Okay, we met last week.
Next one?
You have enough? Yeah. So I'm gonna touch on the items we talked about, making sure we included. So, go to page 2. The highlighted section there is, basically the big change, the big add there is we added the salary of a city manager, 90,000. And we also adjusted the cost of benefits, social security, insurance, retirement accordingly to reflect that individual salary in the mix. Okay? And we already had the police department, I think one person increased their salary from budgeted from 565 to 632. That's on page 3, sorry. And then on page 4, under the emergency management expense, we increased that to 55,500 to account for the quick connect panels for the police, well two, the city hall and the booster, siren and coal mine, and the emergency management plan of 15,000. Okay. So, I think we just skip over, but if you go to page 8.
What about public works?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Public Works, we added the lawnmower for 6,000. We added 50,000 for engineering services. I'm on page 5 now. Okay. Capital improvement for streets. We had 100,000 last week. We included, of that 150 now, 50,000 is for engineer. So we're allocating 150,000 in total for streets, both engineering and actual infrastructure. Okay. I think we talked about this last week, but library's getting 2 computers for 2,000 and Coffee for 8. And of course, you get a floor for 1,000.
on page 6. Page 7, we have the light bars for animal control and the new F-250 pickup. On page 7 now, 31,300. And so, on page 8, you can see, based on these numbers, we would have a deficit of slightly less than 200,000.
Okay, in that total, the 6,000 that you added for the lawnmower is not in that total. Remember, we had public works in 923 and you added that 6,000 to that lawnmower, so that's at 929.9. Okay, and the library and the animal control are two separate budgets of their own, so those totals on the general fund should come before them. Because they're separate of the general fund, even though they have transfers from the general.
But that keeps the deficit.
Not by much,
If that's the
but they're two separate.
Okay.
It's the way they've always been considered. Page 8, yeah, 205, deficit of $205,000.
So when we actually, so when we talk about having the difference of the gap in there, so for the council to understand what are the different options that we have to be able to do that. And of course, we're making an estimate based on what we have on the taxes, right?
Right.
So there's still some estimating that goes along with that for consideration. So,
You know, the values, preliminary values were 20.5 million more than last year. If the protests were to take out, say, half of that, that would put us at about 192 million. So for every cent you go up past whatever, it's $19,200 that 1 cent of taxes generates. So close to 20,000. That if the protests bring the values down somewhat, and we just subtract about 10 million from that, it would bring it down to about 192 million in values. So you look at that, and for every penny, the tax rate is $19,200 that we would generate.
I don't think the appraisal districts are really going on their evaluations.
Well, I haven't heard from anybody.
And from what I heard, they have, from what I've seen,
Well,
that they're
then
sticking
it
with
would
what they
be,
got.
okay, then it would be about 20,000 per cent.
so what's the total that we have?
Well,
Preliminary numbers.
we just add another 10,000 to that 192, it would be close to it
For ad valorem taxes.
for property values for ad valorem taxes. I don't think it's gonna be the 202, there will be some going down.
I know there was a notice from the bank. They reduced almost $500,000 every now and then.
Okay. That one. So,
I think, it's not gonna get a lot more ad valorem taxes,
so,
about 200,000.
okay, so you don't think my 10 million is a good estimate for them going down? If they went down $500,000 on the bank?
I mean, I don't think that they're changing, I don't think that they're changing a lot. I know HEB protested theirs.
I thought HEB's was pretty low compared to some of the others.
It is low, but they protested every year though, because they're smart about it.
Well, they got
Anyways,
people working.
regardless, how much, is the maximum that we can add in ad valorem?
And we won't know that until we get the tax rate calculated, we know it'll be sometime. Yeah, right after the 25th of this month, when we get the values.
Now, the main thing that we're trying to do here, and it's for, kind of for discussion, for this, for us to be able to submit, and it's more of a formality than anything, it's us just submitting a budget and putting it to the city and saying, okay, this is what we submit for consideration. That's what we have to do by the 16th of July. That's basically it. We have to wait for the next set of numbers to actually come in, depending on what we get, and then we have to submit that to the 25th. So there's still some adjustments and different things that are going on, but for discussion tonight, that was one of the things that I asked for is for us to have options. What are some of the things that can be done? Taxes is one. The increase on the tax rate. What would that do if we made adjustments to that? How much more would we bring in?
Based on those values, that's what, for every cent, if it goes down to 10 million, 19,200. If it stays closer to what Charles is thinking, then it's $20,000 for every cent.
What's the most you can raise it? There's a limit?
Well, Tom, is there gonna be some waivers because of the pandemic? Do you know? Have you heard any more on that?
I don't know.
Okay. We, the 3.5 is a surefire safe thing, but now, if they're not gonna declare this pandemic a disaster and emergency disaster and let us go up to the 8%, well then, but we figured the 8% would only generate about $30,000 more.
Doesn't move the needle that much.
And Mayor, I'm not,
The taxes from last year multiplied by 3.5%, and that's what you got incorporated in the budget now. And we figured if we were to go up to 8%, it would generate another 30,000.
I'm not a finance guy, but, I've been around police chiefs and, for years. I've been doing this August 22 years. The problem is when you try to buy 2 police vehicles and pay cash for them, we pulled all the extra money out of the budget to buy police cars. That's why people finance them or they lease them. I mean, this is exactly what every police chief I've ever talked to, that's why they have to go to the bank and borrow money for the same reason, we don't pay cash for our personal vehicles, most of us. I mean, Tom Clark does. That's the deal. You pulled all your cash out to buy a couple of cars, and now
That's why you're only getting 2.
and that's why you buy 2. So
Just something to think about. I mean, we're buying a lot of larger items that were cash for.
and the problem is, it's not the end. As long as you want to have a police department, you're going to be buying cars, and they're going to get more expensive. And someday you may have to buy a fire truck. We don't know.
City, I can tell you, I don't know of a single city that goes out and pays cash for a fire truck. They have to finance those over 8, 9, 10 years. It's a ladder truck alone is $1 million.
So tonight, we're just gonna
Put something together to be able to submit. And it's more of a formality, it's basically turning it
And
into.
that's, yeah,
and then we'll crunch the numbers after.
well, you're gonna have to,
Finance.
you're gonna have to look at your options, tax rates one, financing vehicles, whether to cut some items from the budget.
PD get by with the $70,000 vehicle and a $35,000.
No, I don't think.
We've already cut them by one.
I don't think
We couldn't
that.
outfit them.
Yeah, the problem is that it's just the equipment that wears out.
What about a bicycle?
They already have
Chief volunteers to
bicycles.
take
Bike patrol, chief's bike.
I mean,
20%.
And I did have a lengthy conversation with a guy from Enterprise Leasing, and the way we have vehicles, and I've dealt with fleet leasing before, is they like generic sedans that when you turn them in after 3 years, they don't show a lot of wear and tear.
we're talking about pickups or SUVs that are used in public safety, where we drill holes in them, we do things to them, and they show more wear than the typical sedan would.
That's
Have we
why, in
talked
my
to-
opinion, you go over there and talk to the bank, our local bank, where we all go to finance. the
I did talk to the bank, and I talked to Josie and emailed Tom. And if we go with bank financing for a vehicle, and we go longer than 12 months, which we assuredly would.
Yeah.
You have to set aside a tax revenue seeking fund, or you have to allocate
like that.
tax funds to pay for that. So it ties up, it doesn't improve your liquidity because
Because it's
you
tied
have
up.
to set aside cash to pay for that bank
What a
financing.
risk. What about these places like government finance, government capital, these companies that do the financing?
I do them all the
You
time.
can do lease purchase. You can do a lease purchase.
Of course, now we're kind of done. We're closing in on the gap there. But I mean, at every trade show we go to, there's 3 or 4 companies. All they do are saying, "You're a city. If you're not bankrupt,
We'll give you the money.
we'll give you the money."
Well,
We have it.
the argument that the leasing guy will make is they'll put us on a program. Every 3 years, we'll turn in a vehicle whether we want to or not. Because we can get them at a lower cost to the state of Texas purchasing power. So they can sell them and get money, but they're gonna want us to do that for all of our vehicles. They're not just gonna want to do the one-offs.
Well, and the government people, the leasing people we talked to just recently is March. They don't care or they make their money just
Government
like.
capital is a lender.
Yeah, they make
They're
their money.
gonna give you your money, you just pay it like a bank. That's all they are. So when we financed our fire truck through Lotto State Bank, we looked at government capital, exact same program. We chose the bank because it was local and the rate was just about the
Was
same.
that the truck or the engine?
It's a fire truck engine, same thing. It's a $500,000 piece of equipment.
And y'all didn't have to put nothing, no sinking fund or
We
nothing.
don't have to do anything other than
Yeah,
make the
well,
monthly
they're
payment.
not
We had
cities.
to meet the,
Cities and
Yeah.
fire departments are
we had to meet the
totally different
obligations of
entities.
open meetings and stuff like that, if we were gonna finance it. But I know the ESD in Harris County, no different than a city. They're financing a fire truck, fire station, government capital, they did them through Lotto State Bank.
The big problem is that there's a provision in the Constitution that says that anything past 12 months is a debt. And that applies to cities. And whether or not it applies to fire departments, I don't
Or an
know.
ESD or something.
But another way to purchase this is by issuing certificates of obligation. You can purchase a lot of stuff by issuing that. Fire
We talked about
trucks,
that. We talked about
vehicles.
I
probably
mentioned fire
needing to do
station.
that through the sidewalks and the streets at a later date.
That's basically a form of debt.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is.
But it's an approved form of debt longer than a year, so.
So could we, agree to this?
Well, he's not finished, he can still got the water fund, this sewer and the gas stay the same, but we haven't talked about the water fund yet.
Just the main thing out of this, we gotta look at options. There's different things. I mean, did we look at any of our past CDs or anything that we have out there that we might have some maturity where we might be able to use some of those CDs?
We already have 60,000 coming from the CD in the budget.
And the mayor, the agreement that we have with the bank is we can cash those in at any time without.
At any time without a penalty. But we have, can we put 60,000 over?
I'm just saying, take a look at the list of CDs that we
See
have.
which ones are liquid and we can.
But remember that council's already looked at those CDs and they've got them going to pay for the water well, remember that?
We had some of them.
Yes,
We had some of them,
yes,
but not all of them. I'm just saying,
but some of them are tied up
it's,
because they're.
it's look at options. That's what I'm saying. We look at options, opportunity for us to go ahead and try to figure this out.
Well, what I think Josie and I can do is look at the CDs, which ones are committed for a specific purpose at the moment, and which ones would be available for use otherwise, available, cashed in and used.
And don't forget the money that we also going to be receiving too.
Well, we did not put that money in at all in this, so.
But once again, look at it as for options and
Or the
opportunity.
COVID?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can talk more about that.
660,000 close to or something like that.
7,000 plus. 700,000
Yeah.
plus.
Oh, 700,000.
759, 711.
Okay.
So just putting it out there. Okay, just take a look at everything.
Well, yeah, well, oh, yeah, we need to look at all options.
You're only gonna get half of that
Yes.
up front.
Right.
And then just show the expenditures for the rest.
On the water fund, you can see we've made some adjustments on the revenue side.
So you're on page 8.
On page 8, sorry. Yep. Page 8. We adjusted the revenue to reflect the new construction.
Okay.
Pretty significant increase in revenue. And on page 9, the expenses. Basically, the biggest was the capital improvements on the water system. That includes the smart meters, 52,000 on page 9.
We put that under materials and supplies for the smart meters, so we put it under capital improvements. You got them under both. So it was one or the other, but I had it that we agreed to put it under materials and supplies, because that's what we pay for meters out of.
Okay.
But you got it
You're right,
twice.
you're right. I see that. Okay. We have 40,000 for the trencher.
What's the difference, 40,000 for the trencher?
On page 9.
Page 9? Down 45? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, well, that's gonna have to go under miscellaneous equipment. Capital. That's why I had it up further up. I had it up where the trucks were last time. That total is correct for the water fund, it's just, wouldn't have been correct if that added 52,000 for the smart meters, there, materials and supplies, and capital improvements to water system. That should be 600,000 on capital improvements to water system. Here again, about 100,000 deficit. We did not take that COVID money into account. We're supposed to be getting. I guess if you wanted to, we could put that as, adding, say, the $100,000 to balance the water budget. From that. I know, that money can be used for infrastructure, so I guess, we could probably transfer some of that to the general fund, just to make the streets and stuff like that.
If we get that COVID money, when does it start flowing?
Well, we have a deadline of August 2nd to supply. I've been swapping emails with the people. I've registered today. I should get an email to be able to log in tomorrow or the next day.
We definitely get it in next budget year.
Oh, yeah, we definitely, next 12 months for sure. You get half of it, then you have to wait 12 months to get the second. And, They seem very helpful to help you apply, and nobody's responded to my email today.
Is this part of the Trees Plus,
Yeah, American Rescue Plan.
supposed to infrastructure?
So we should be getting 380 for sure within this budget year and possibly the other 380 next.
So as soon as you show the expenditures, I mean, the big thing is they roll it out all the way to 2024. You have the time to be able to spend it. But if you can actually show them the money for it, they should be able to start helping you out sooner than later.
We should have helped.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's the main thing. Main thing on that. Okay.
So, moving on to the gas fund, nothing significant there as far as changes. And you show us a slight surplus, 7,600, page 11. And sewer fund. That's an increase in revenue due to new housing. And we're making some significant capital improvements, the electric panels, on page 12. And the blower to the sewer plant. Deficit about 88,000.
I thought we could remove the panel and
I-
lowers because we had.
Yeah, I thought the panels were already added on the other one.
Yeah, that was in, was
In the
that
general
in
fund.
current year budget? So he was supposed to order them, right? Okay.
The emergency side?
I don't know anything about that.
Capital improvements.
I thought that electric panel for the lift station was included in that 22.5 that was put in the. Let's see,
That 15,000 for the substation electrical panel and the 6,000 for the blower motor?
Take a look at
25,
that
but
out.
wasn't that the already?
I thought we updated the 44 since it was being taken care of by the general.
Yeah, take a look at the minutes for the workshop. Take a look at the minutes on that one.
So whether we do or whether we don't, the sewer fund, because it does not have debt anymore, is sitting pretty, so it wouldn't matter if we did take it from the sewer fund. Whatever we are over, which we're over by a lot, because of the debt going away, we'll just put the balance in the reserve. So,
And you know, one of the other things too with the options is don't forget whatever we have as carryover from this year. Because there are, when we were going through it, you
And,
know, we have carryover, we're gonna have money that is carried over. So look at that as an opportunity to also take care of some of those
We
gaps.
talked about if we don't do the streets and it'll be moved forward, we've already talked about that. And we've already got 50,000 on that drainage that we're gonna be able to complete this year. So far, long in the year already. So that, we've already got that, we've already talked about if we don't get the streets, which I don't think we're going to, moving that forward as well. So that's 150,000.
Just take a look and look at everything. Like I said, look at the options and see where we can fill the gaps based on availability and the different needs. And being able to bring in, you know, the different discussions for the recommendations for the council to go ahead and do that. But don't limit yourself. What I'm saying is, let's not limit ourselves just to, we just look at the budget. Let's look at everything and how we be able to sustain ourselves. A lot of the things that we're looking at right now, we gotta realize, if we don't act on it within this next year, we're gonna be a year and a half behind. That's what normally, I've talked to some of the mayors, I've asked them for advice on what you need to do, especially with some of these communities that are growing. So if you miss a cycle in a budget year to be able to get ahead of where you need to, it's gonna take you another year and a half before you actually catch up, because you're gonna have to go through the same motions, and then by the time the money comes along. So So it's very important that right now we're really looking at those opportunities to capitalize. And if we shrink in certain things that we actually have out in the reserves, well, we shrink, but at the same time, we're gonna kind of help ourselves out because we're
We also
getting
have to
ourselves
look
prepared.
at our policy on, and what the auditors tell us to do, of keeping some reserves, that we have to have a certain amount of reserves on hand in case we get into a bind. We have, in 3 to 4 months, Tom?
Yeah, at the minimum.
Minimum, minimum.
No,
So we've got to keep that in mind.
Totally.
We don't want to go against our own policy and get written up in the audit for it.
Totally understand. And just like Charles brought up the last time, we can't really do any kind of funding or anything until we get our audits caught up. So, there's a lot, and there's a few things that we're gonna need to take into consideration, but we gotta be able to make things kind of line themselves up right now and start making those difficult decisions. We can't stay the way that we're operating right now because we're not gonna be able to help ourselves. It's gonna come, and it's gonna hit us hard. And we need to start making those decisions here in the very near future to kind of get ourselves prepared. If not, we're gonna be behind the power curve. So just some food for thought on that one. So the action on this one, on the consider, is just for us to go ahead and say, whether it's deficit or no deficit, it's just basically us going ahead and saying, okay, we're gonna go ahead and do it as a pre-budget and just do the formality of formally finalizing it and put it into place for the 16th of July.
Whatever we do tonight doesn't lock us in
No, it
the final
doesn't.
budget.
There's still discussion ahead.
This is the timetable that Tom provided, things that we need to go ahead and do and be able to do in the sense of a chronological.
We're not locked in any way when it comes to the very first line item in the budget, taxes. And we can't until we get the values.
And we're gonna have to see how we're gonna be able to meet that 25th of July timeline too.
Well, we don't meet that timeline. The
They
appraisal
do.
districts do.
Yeah.
And they'll get them to them. And then I just forward all that info on to the county. And I've already talked to that girl at the county that we want to move it as quickly as possible.
I don't know, Mayor, if it was, help the rest of the council if they have this tax and budget deadline. This was provided by TML.
You want me to
That's
forward
what-
that? You want me to email it to them? I can do that.
That's what you.
Yes, yes.
We've seen this, Joseph.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one about the 16th.
I don't know. No, I haven't seen it. Yeah, if you could send it, I'd find a copy, it'd be great.
I'll send it. I've got it.
For everybody, yeah.
Without a doubt. So, can I get a motion? Yep.
I'll make a motion that we accept this preliminary budget pending final approval.
Have a motion? Okay, got a second? Any further discussion?
We're going to have a special meeting sometime here before the 25th to iron out all the details in this budget.
Looking at the timeline.
There's two different timelines on there.
Yeah.
One is if you think you're gonna go over, the approved rate. And then the other timeline is you're not gonna go over. the approved
Yeah.
rate.
No new taxes.
Yeah, so it'd be in the next meeting, we'll need to go ahead, because we gotta publish that notice of the budget hearing. And we're gonna follow that.
Everybody, you think you're gonna go over the rate?
Well,
Depends on what council does when they finalize it.
yeah.
But if you go, even if you go up to 8%, it's gonna just bring in 30,000 more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So food for thought, in a sense, once again, it's about options. Looking at all the options and everything that we have on there. Look at our current, where we're at. Okay, and the holdover money too that goes along with that. So be prepared for the next meeting, probably getting a little bit more in depth and trying to do that. And I'll get with Josie on this Wednesday and with Edward, see where we're at and see what we need to do. And see if we need to have another meeting before that, if we need to. But basically it's just being able to go ahead and take the next step.
We'd like to talk about it in 2 weeks, so be like the 26th. That's right around that time. We know what the values are, hopefully, that day.
Be able to be prepared. Okay? Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right. And Edward, you started giving us a
Well,
heads up update
yeah.
on the American Rescue Plan
Yeah.
Act, funding for small cities.
I mentioned this already, but I have successfully registered. I should get an email so I can log in and start the process of the application for the grant. And again, as we covered, like you said, Charles, it's probably, we should be able to get a lot of this money pretty quickly because we've spent, or will be spending on it, another half, or whatever half of the exact amount we're supposed to be getting is $759,711. Half of that is $379,855. And we take the first tranche, wait 12 months for the second tranche. So, my goal is to just get this application done this week as best I can. I'm gonna have to provide some information, but I've registered and
Did you look at that? And actually, Josie, when you sent out the guidance on the timeline for the budget, can you also include the information on the ARP, those handouts? Go ahead and include those in there and send them to them so they can actually have it. So looking at the timeline that is on there, did you take a look at that paragraph where it asks all those different things that you need to submit?
yeah, that's the goal is to get those submitted. So, I think what email went out to the lady, they're trying to make it fairly easy. I mean, she responded to an email that I sent, an hour later. So I think they're highly motivated because this is federal money that the state of Texas is something to read.
They've been getting a lot of pushback from the money, trying to get it out. So that'd be good. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, that's about it.
Thank you.
Should know more in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll consider next on setting the date for a public hearing for setting new impact fees. Josie.
Okay, I was informed by Mr. Tate, in order for us to adopt impact fees, we're gonna have to have another public hearing, and it also has to be a 30-day notice for that. So, Tom, can we have that public hearing right before the council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so that would mean I could get it to the paper in plenty of time for y'all to hear it at the second meeting in August.
Motion then, set it for the next, the August meeting.
Second meeting in August.
Second.
August the 23rd.
23rd?
Look at the counter, I think. What's the deadline?
Well, I had to get it to paper this week in order to move it up, but if I were to get it in for next week, it would get us at the second meeting in August.
Yeah, it's the 23rd. It's the 23rd.
I had looked at it, second meeting in August.
Make a motion, second? Second, okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll put it in August. We'll be right before that. Okay, update on the employee handbook.
I sent out an email to all the department heads this week, letting them know, according to what we decided in the council, that all the department heads would be on this committee. And we've asked the police department and Josie's folks to come up with another person to help just because of their size and complexity of what they do. I set a just arbitrary date that I would like to make the first cut at this, where we all get together. I don't want to have a lot of meetings. I don't want to tie people into meetings when they can be sitting down and just doing something already. So I asked them to go ahead, start making notes, additions, changes, deletions, and our first meeting sometime in mid-August to be announced. We'll sit down and kind of hash it out and come up with a working draft. We mentioned in the last meeting that we're probably certainly going to need some outside help. There are law firms that do this, there are HR firms that do this. They'll look at your final draft and they'll just make sure that you're not violating any laws, you haven't left anything out. I did just talk to one lady in San Antonio. She does this routinely for businesses and I guess cities, and she charges I think $200 an hour. And she said we're looking, if we do associated paperwork, I talked to Josie about this. Hiring paperwork has to sync with our handbook, so that we don't have something in the handbook conflicting with something that they just signed when we hired them on, that's going to give us some legal problems down the road. So to look at the handbook and all associated hiring documents, somewhere $1,200 to $2,000 to have a professional look at it. So I'm still shooting for the end of the year to have a final product.
I had a comment I wanted to say. If we do end up hiring a city administrator, that's gonna change a lot of the handbook and a lot of the policies. So I wanted to throw that out there. That is a very critical point. If you do budget a city administrator and you hire one, a lot of these policies you're gonna be looking at will probably, based on the way the city's organized, would change. So I might want to throw that out there. I don't want to throw a horseshoe.
You have an example of what you're talking about?
Well, as city administrator, one, the way that the chain of command, what that person's responsible for. Normally, a city administrator, all the department heads will report that city administrator.
Well,
So
the
that,
council will have to take action on that and decide. Because they'll have to create the position, there'll have to be a new ordinance, all that stuff. Council will have to decide
yeah, and I guess what
all
my,
that before we
yeah.
can move on.
But what my question, my comment is, that if we're gonna, we do all this and we pay someone to review something, then all of a sudden does that make sense that all of a sudden we would have a product that wouldn't really apply to a lot of, might be a lot of conflict or not, it just have to be redone.
Depends on y'all.
That's the budget. I mean, that's what the mayor's requested in the budget. So that was what I was commenting about, because right now, we do not have an ordinance that creates a city administrator. It was repealed. Now, Ms. Compa has served at times as a city administrator, but that's without an ordinance supporting that position. It was purely,
City secretary.
it was purely, gentleman's agreement.
City secretary.
Yes.
She was.
City secretary.
That's what she is.
So that's the reason I'm saying that is because that would, it would cause, it would change some things.
Out of 13, I'm just looking at the table of contents. Out of 13, I can see 3.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
The handbook,
13 what?
13 chapters.
Then 3 would be what?
3 are the ones that probably have some changes in there.
I haven't reviewed.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. I mean,
Which
I'm trying to figure out what you're saying.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm saying is if you're gonna hire a professional city administrator, maybe they want some play in a brand new policy you're redoing also. That would, I'm just thinking out loud that if I was coming into this,
If the city administrator operates at the will of the council, he's not a city manager that runs the city. A city administrator works with the council, and if the council says, this is what we want, this is how we want this to be done, which is what they've insinuated, then
Well, I mean,
the
I-
city administrator goes along with that.
Makes no-
I see where you're coming from,
I'm just
Richie,
throwing that in
but in
there.
a
Makes
sense
no
of,
difference.
in a sense of what David is doing, I'm looking at the stuff that he's reviewing and the things that would actually tie in to having some changes. It's only maybe 3 of them.
No, I mean, I'm not
They're-
against it. I mean, we
They're very
did,
general.
6 years ago, we went through the policy and made some changes. There's a lot of stuff in it that needs to, I mean, I'm not against it. I just threw that out there because we are talking about a big change in the city form, the daily
Actually,
operations
it's
of the
not,
city.
because the city administrator, even though they are over all the departments, they still work at the will of the council, whatever the council decides. And if council already said they wanted the committee to oversee this,
Yeah, that's not,
then
that's
they
not
just
what I
kind of, a city manager is a different
No,
animal
I
than a
mean,
city
yeah,
administrator.
I was just throwing that in there. I mean, I guess, I mean, I'm just.
I know what you're saying in a sense of structure, but when you look at the handbook and what he's looking at, and there's not that much in the sense of the structure portion of it. It's more the employee handbook. And it's more about the conduct and the things that you're supposed to be doing. How do you handle certain processes that go along with that?
I just wanted to throw that in there. I thought it was, of interest.
So not valid point, sense of consideration. So end of the year.
It's my goal, this thing's been pushed down the road for how many years now, so I'm just trying to give it something solid as quick as we can to get a product out here. So,
Awesome. Council, any questions for Dave? Anything on that? All right. Oh, consider an act upon the signature stamp and electronic signature policy.
Here, I've handed out a couple of documents. This is San Antonio electric signature policy, text dot policy on electronic digital signatures, and the electronic signature policy for the city of Houston. So these are just some things that I'd like for the council to look over. This, again, last meeting, we were talking about this. This is not, it's not something that's real simple to put into place. So, but once you get it done, I think it's going to help the city. And in doing some research, Texas A&M just put out a request for proposal for electronic signature solution. Of course, they're a much bigger organization than us, but this give us, if anyone would like to take a look at this, this is very comprehensive. I'd be glad to get that to you.
Do you have it electronic?
Nope, but I can scan it and get it to everybody. Did you, would everybody like to copy
sure.
that? Yeah. Yeah.
Now, there are 2 things under consideration. One is the electronic signature. The other is the stamp, which is a stamp, right?
Right.
Okay. We have any problems with that as far as local policy goes?
Well, I think that, again, some of it's going to overlap, David. I think that, we were talking about, you can't use that rubber stamp unless you have the authority to use it.
Right.
And you're going to have to come up with I'm more concerned about the electronic signature policy because it encompasses more than just a rubber stamp. And I think that we did have a rubber stamp with Mark, didn't we? Yeah. And we didn't have any written policy.
Okay. So if we work out the electronic signature, we can add wording in there that would also say we need prior approval of the mayor, 2-person policy before the stamp is used, et cetera, et cetera. No problem, right?
Right. Okay, it would not be a problem. So that's the update.
What's that? Appreciate it.
We take no action on this?
No, it's saying it's just, the council's gonna have to come up with suggestions, ideas, direction on this. So I'm letting everybody look at this, because this needs to be a comprehensive project for the council.
Can we work that into the Frontera contract? Since they're
Well,
IT?
we may have to, when you look at the A&M proposal, They talk about, well, all of these, they talk about the IT department coming this way to make sure that it's secure signature.
I can tell y'all, that my house, my cars, everything's through DocuSign now.
Yep.
Everything's electronic. And it's, I mean, it's your physical signature.
So that, you know, we've been doing that in real estate for a long time.
Yeah.
See, San Antonio's policy, they have, all the department heads have electronic signature. It's just like the way business is done.
It's just a form, you just sign it electronic. Yeah, I mean, it's just DocuSign, it's all.
There's an expense involved too, to set that up.
So there's two products. You got the regular electronic signatures based on the software that is being provided. So that's where the IT portion comes into play. But the other portion of it that takes a little bit more homework is when it's required to have encryption. Once you start putting the encryption, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different, but the majority of the places that you deal with, it's an electronic signature.
But I think that, you know, that information that I gave you last week, or last meeting, we have to meet the guidelines that are set out by.
Listen,
We have to meet the guidelines that are set out by, what is this? This is one of Matt's, Department of Information Resources. And that's going to involve the encryption that the mayor's talking about.
the biggest thing, Tom, is to probably, it might be good as part of this, is just identify where we would need that signature at. What would be the common place that we would use as signatures? And what would be the acceptable means?
Well, I think that, as Charles is pointing out, and again, once we get this A&M information out to you, you'll see that everybody uses electronic signatures. And especially because of the pandemic.
Yeah, the pandemic changed a lot of things.
But each individual software does it a little bit different.
That's correct. That's why you have to get the IT involved.
So, and it's a moving, I tell you, that's one of the hardest things about with communications is that as soon as you get caught up with something, there's something new. So it's always changing and evolving on how they do certain things.
So that's why A&M's going through this. They've used electronic signatures in the past, but now, just as the mayor's talked about, there's always something coming up with technology. And as soon as we were talking about earlier about being attacked through our firewalls, you know, as soon as you come up with encrypted electronic signature, somebody's going to try to figure out a way to use that.
So we need a motion to table this one?
It says consider an act upon and.
Yeah, but Tom said it was just an update.
This is information for you guys, David, to answer your question at the table.
I make a motion to table this. We need to put time on the tabling of it, because we need time to study this, we need time to wait on the reports. So, is a month a reasonable time to bring it up again?
Well, I think that's a reasonable time to bring it up. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I suggest we table this till the first meeting in August. For further consideration.
Got a second? Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Any opposed? There we go. Okay. P, consider an act upon the employment status, Maria.
Okay, I don't think there's any action required on this. There was more stuff that happened over the weekend and today. She has abandoned her position, she's not coming back.
So let me just go ahead and let me provide clarification since we're talking about employee. Normally the employee would be here or would, if they had the chance or wanted to, they would be here and we would ask the employee, do you want to do this in the open or do you want to do it in an executive session?
But it's not necessary since she's quit. For all practical purposes, she quit, she's not coming back. So. She texted Virginia, we've got the text.
Okay, so she did send something in. Okay,
She texted Virginia and said she thought about it, she's not coming back.
we have a formal notification, basically.
We got the copies of the text, I've got them.
What was her position?
She was still a probationary employee, we hired her the last week of She went to work the last week of February as a utility clerk, and I was gonna start teaching her taxes and all that. In fact, I had started teaching her that, but, she doesn't want to go by a certain route. She wants to be able to go in, she wants to go.
This stuff right there. Let's not talk about somebody's performance out in the open. Like I said, if we want to take it and we want to talk into the details, we can go in the back and we can talk
I just
about
wasn't
that.
familiar with her.
No, it's not necessary. She's resigned her position for all practical purposes.
So, from the HR side, Josie, just with the text, we're good to go? Is there anything formal that you need?
No actions needed. We've just been informed that she's resigned.
Okay, so that's an acceptable form of resignation with the text.
I would say so.
Yes.
Okay.
Plus the fact that she hasn't been the last 2 days of work.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything.
No actions needed, unless, Tom, you feel.
I don't think it's even needed.
No action needed on that one. So Q, consider an act upon allowing the city secretary to hire a part-time help. Yes.
I move that we allow the city secretary to hire part-time help.
Second.
A second, okay. Any further discussion on that one?
And I don't have anybody in mind, so if y'all know of anybody that you think might be good, just let me know.
Come over here.
There you go. Okay. Any other discussions? Okay.
You wanna take that job?
Boy, he'll
Why-
straighten
why
this
not,
office
Luke?
out.
Can't even do the cleanest swimming
Got
pool.
some great ideas, man.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's what Miss Coppin needs, a little mini-me down here. They won't be having to fill her position.
No, I think he's smarter than you, though.
Maybe so.
Okay. The only discussion I would say is whether or not David, but David as your liaison, if you'd like to use him to be part of the hiring process, take advantage of the opportunity to be able to help you out with that. So anything else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good. Okay, informational items, last thing, Josie, anything you need to pass on?
No, just that I did get my tax collector license renewed.
That's good for how long?
Another year.
1 year. Okay. Council, anything else you need to pass on? No? I got a few things, you just want to go ahead and, nope, okay, yes. Oh, thought somebody said something. Okay, please remind, as you deal with our residents in here, please remind folks about the waste management changes on the rates for the trash. That's gonna be effective 1 August. I know where Josie's gotten the word out, we put it on the website, we send it out in multiple ways. But please, as you talk to folks, it's not that much of a difference, but it is a difference. So please pass the word, any opportunity to talk to folks about that.
Virginia's really been good. Anybody that comes to the drive-through to make their payment, she reminds them that next month they'll see a change in their garbage rate.
Good.
So she's been
Good.
going above and beyond on that.
Awesome. We'll keep doing that. The other one, talk to your districts about the streets and the process. Now that we've had a lot of rain and now we have even more road conditions that are popping up, a lot of folks are, you guys gonna do anything about the roads? And I keep telling them, hey, it's a process, things that we're doing and options that we gotta look at to try to figure out what we're gonna do and prioritize. What are gonna be the short term, what are gonna be the long terms? But please walk them. A lot of them think that we just have money and we're just gonna go ahead and hire somebody and they're gonna come fix it. I mean, it's not that much. But especially those districts that have come to you and talk to you about their districts, please keep them informed as we go. So it's very important that we take the time to do that. If you haven't heard, Railhead Restaurant is actually gonna be moving across the street over to the old Toby's. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah, so if you notice on there, you also notice that they have the liquor message on there, or the alcohol message
Yeah.
on the outside, so they're also applying to be able to do that. So there's gonna be a shift. There's gonna be a shift in a sense of moving over to.
I saw a guy walking, he had his truck there and he was going in and out. And I just pulled up and I said, hey, what are you putting in here? He said, what do you want? I said, a good restaurant. He said, oh, good idea. That's all I'm gonna say. Glad to hear.
There you go. And there's probably-
Why do we have notices on both floors? We got notice on the existing. We got notice over there on the other side.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is maybe they were just required because they're established right
There's
now
a time
and
that they have to have.
Well, they're established right now, but they don't have that license at the current place.
I
They
mean,
can only have one application. I thought it applied to the physical location of the business.
That's how it works.
Where you're going to have the permit.
Yeah, well, maybe they just wanted to let their customers know, hey, we're gonna have this addition when we move across the
I
street.
think just like Charles said, the important one is the new one. It's gotta be there, but why did they put it in the old?
Right. Well, I thought maybe they had a competitor coming in.
No, I think they just want to let people know that they have applied for the license.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
that's
where they're
probably
gonna do
it. Cause that probably will bring some.
So stay tuned. There's probably gonna be some other movement too. We're waiting for the other portions to happen, but there's gonna be a little bit more. And then the last thing is, with sirens, we're still waiting for the circuit board to come in.
He's waiting for the vendor to notify him on shipping information.
So as soon as, we're hoping that we get it in time this time so we can get into the rhythm of the first Wednesday testing the sirens. So just so you know, okay? But that's where we actually have on it. Any last alibis? Okay. Can I get a motion for us to go ahead and adjourn? A motion, second, Joseph, okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. No, 9:45.
I feel like, I like seeing my friends.